Arthur has peasants lining up at his fortress. Succubi serve him. Just one ring from his stash would buy an entire kingdom back home. He opens his magic vault at will, pulling out legendary relics like they are simple toys. He even owns a cloak of shadows. He is a living legend, the only knight to ever reach the absolute peak of power. After 22 years in that realm, even the demon fortress that whole armies could not conquer. He seized it and made its master his servant all alone. It began when over 1 million souls vanished instantly. Every player in the Eternal Realm disappeared just as monsters invaded our world. High Kings thought it was an alien invasion. Trust me, you and I are about to see the terrifying truth. Mankind was helpless until suddenly, the people who had vanished began to return from the void. Talk about a dramatic homecoming. They had been trapped inside a magical game world, forced to fight and gain levels just to stay alive. 1 month here was a year there. Those who returned early were simply the losers who had died in that world. 2 months after the disappearance, the second wave returned. These survivors had spent 2 full years fighting in the pits of hell. By the 3rd month, those with 3 years of combat experience finally made their way back to our reality. Soon, warriors with 8 years of experience returned. But as they grew stronger, the monsters invading our lands became even deadlier. A level 150 beast named Drain emerged, trembling in fear. A mysterious man was calmly walking straight toward him. The beast lunged, but it was over instantly. A massive explosion rocked the area as the monster was erased with one strike. The hero of 22 years had finally come home, the masked monarch. He had slain every lord and reached the demon fortress alone. He even struck down the demon king. But wait, it was a lie. The demon king laughed. Even as the strongest human, Arthur had failed to realize he was fighting a mere shadow. Arthur was enraged, but it was already too late. The demon king admitted the human far exceeded his expectations and looked forward to hunting the boy again. The masked knight begged for death, but he was simply abandoned in the darkness of that desolate throne room. As the world crumbled, the system finally granted him passage home because he had dared to attack the heart of evil. He returned bearing his massive dimensional vault as a reward. He was the only survivor who didn't perish, bringing back legendary treasures from that realm. The most powerful man on Earth had finally returned. He went straight to a house and knocked. Back in the Eternal Realm, he had always fought beside his brother, Julian. But during the battle against the level 81 boss began. Arthur had watched his brother die right before his eyes in that world. But now, as the door opened, Julian stood there alive and recognized him. Julian believed his brother returned only after the masked monarch had finally slain the game's ultimate boss. That was the story the High King told everyone, but you and I know the reality was much darker. He had been deceived by the Demon King. Now, terrifying new monsters and high-level dungeons are appearing all across the land. Julian asked what level Arthur was. Arthur laughed. Did his little brother really want to recruit him into some local mercenary group? But once he heard the name of the Blackwood Order, Arthur was consumed by a burning rage. The Blackwood Order was a group of high-level tyrants who murdered and enslaved the weak. Arthur was the man who had slaughtered them all personally back in the game. Julian seemed proud of his rank, but Arthur sternly commanded him to walk away from those criminals immediately. Arthur says trash will always be trash and he wants his brother out. Julian was confused. Why was he so confident? Well, it's simple, he's at max level. Julian believed Sir Richard Paulson was the strongest man alive at level 22, which was the highest tier. How could Arthur be stronger? Because he is the legendary masked monarch himself. He hit level 300 and stopped counting. Only then did Julian realize his brother was the one who destroyed the Blackwood Order. Julian asked how the magic vault worked, and Arthur explained it was a unique reward for his final quest. Did he actually kill the Demon King? He did, but the truth was complicated. Julian was absolutely reeling from all this impossible information. I know what you're thinking. A level 300 gift for level 154. It's going to be insane. With a grin, he wondered what to give. Julian gasped as Arthur's arm vanished into thin air, reaching deep into his hidden pocket dimension. He pulled out the prize, Hamuri's twin blades of fury, boasting an attack power of 800. The boy was stunned by the weapon's sheer power, but his excitement was through the roof. But the joy faded quickly. He couldn't wield them. He needed 32 more points in his strength stat to lift the blades. Arthur returned with rare artifacts to boost Julian's strength. You and I are about to see things get truly wild. All right, you and I are about to see how a legendary king makes his grand return. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 is impressed. In a quiet village in the Northern Isles, a man massages his temples with steady, very focused pressure. Suddenly, several crystal balls begin to glow with a blinding light. He calls out into the void, and a voice finally answers. The voice says the others haven't arrived yet. The man just sighs, asking if those fools are ever on time. The voice wonders if this meeting is about what it suspects. He confirms the dark news is indeed true. The masked sovereign has officially returned to our world. The news leaves the mysterious contact in total silence. The woman admits she knew his return was inevitable. She asks if he at least knows where the sovereign is hiding. He stays quiet for a long beat before revealing the masked man is currently in the kingdom of Oakhaven. At the royal registry, Simon officially becomes a knight. He asks his brother if this is actually something worth celebrating. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 explains they have no choice. The High Council of Knights punishes anyone who fails to register their new powers. As they walk, 𝒏𝒍𝒚 notices several other survivors who manage to escape from the terrifying Eternal Realm. Simon wonders why players returned without any gear. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 realizes the kid has forgotten the rules of their return. He explains those weapons were forged here on Earth. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 asks if they use them just to save money. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 clarifies that in the real world, master crafters and powerful mages have to work together. They team up to forge equipment, but Simon notes that even their best work is incredibly low quality compared to what they used back in the abyss. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 looks at him and says he has a favor to ask. Now pay attention, because 𝒏𝒍𝒚 is taking his brother to the legendary Twilight Forge to meet an old friend. Simon is quite confused. The two brothers stand right in front of the massive workshop. Simon is terrified, asking if the person is really inside. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 admits he didn't expect the forge to be this huge. The younger brother asks if 𝒏𝒍𝒚 actually knows them. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 wonders if the smith is famous in this world too. Simon says every knight knows the Twilight Smith. He was a non-combatant who still joined the elite 400-member suicide squad during the war. This forge is where the most famous knights from across the globe come to place their legendary custom orders. Simon reveals it's his absolute dream to have his own gear customized right here. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 just smiles and tells him to place an order, making his little brother incredibly happy. You and I both know 𝒏𝒍𝒚 won't take no for an answer. They enter, and a woman asks how she can help. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 simply states he is there to see Master Alistair. The receptionist asks for a formal appointment, and since they don't have one, she denies them entry. Simon starts to doubt his brother is actually a famous VIP here. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 asks where the smith is and guesses he's working in the workshop, making the woman very suspicious. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 just thanks her and takes off running for the stairs. She screams for him to stop, but the masked hero just wants to find the entrance. He finds the basement and charges inside. The woman can't stop him now. Downstairs, the workshop is filled with heavy piles of masterwork armor. Rows of blades and shields line the dark walls, while the master blacksmith works intensely on his latest legendary masterpiece. He's incredibly careful with every strike. Even though he's not a warrior, this smith is level 98. Alistair turns around at the sound of his name and freezes. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 is standing right there in the smoke. The receptionist finally catches up, shouting that he's absolutely forbidden from being down here. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 tells the smith he should give her a massive bonus for being so kind and showing him the way right down here. She tries to apologize for the sudden intrusion, but Alistair just tells her she'll get a huge bonus check this month, leaving her totally confused. The smith asks if she'd rather refuse the gold. Shaking, she quickly thanks him. Alistair grumbles that the sovereign is still causing trouble. Silas asks if he's missed him. The big man snaps back. He was living a perfectly peaceful life until Silas dragged him to that total nightmare of a world. Silas reveals a legendary hammer. Shocked, Alistair asks how he brought items back, since the abyss usually strips everyone completely bare upon return. Smiling, Silas says his entire inventory came back in a pocket dimension. It was a final reward for clearing the ultimate quest. Alistair is deeply grateful to see his hammer, but he finds it strange Silas didn't return it the very moment they met. So what do you and I make of this? Silas claims the hammer as his own. Trust me, things are getting wild. Alaric surprises him, saying that for the sake of their old friendship, he will return it, provided the smith does him a favor. Left with no choice, Barnaby begins the work. He asks Alaric if he completely missed the Do Not Disturb sign on the door. All right, you and I are about to see this night get brushed off, but watch what he does next. Inside are several incredibly shiny items, which immediately hooks the old blacksmith's greedy attention. Alaric brought him dragon steel, the brilliant black ore, and a rare horn, all S-rank items. He wants to know how he obtained them. The masked lord wants the smith to craft a special item. Barnaby asks what he needs, and Alaric just smirks at his plan. His request is simple, a mask. Alaric remarks that this place was just a tiny workshop when he first visited, never imagining it would grow into such a grand estate. He also mentions he had no idea the smith had such sophisticated hobbies. Barnaby asks why he does not just sit down and join the two of them. Elian introduces himself to the master smith. The big man says he seems like a good kid, unlike his arrogant brother over there. Joining in on the joke, Alaric says if the old man keeps giving him attitude, he might just have to leave. Barnaby wants to understand what happened, and if he really cleared every single quest in the infinite realm. Now pay attention, because this reveal is huge. For 2 years he hunted demon lords alone until he finally defeated the king, but discovered it was all just an illusion. Alaric does not understand why the smith is reacting this way. Barnaby says it is unbelievable that the great masked monarch could not tell a simple dream from reality. It seems disappointing for the man. Still, Elian says he is just happy his brother returned in one piece. With a reward for the final quest, Barnaby goes quiet. Thinking as he hears that, he asks what favor they need. Alaric says it is something simple. Since he will be a top customer, he wants all of his orders to get priority. Seeing how cocky the masked lord is, Barnaby agrees. Alaric also wants a gift for his brother that no one would recognize. The smith realizes he wants the design adjusted, which for him is a pretty easy job to finish. So he asks for his hammer to get to work. Amazingly, the masked lord actually gives it back. Barnaby complains that he should not just toss it around, but Alaric smiles, saying it won't break from a little fall. The smith says he is always so sarcastic. Noticing something, Barnaby asks if he forgot he still is not level 100. Obviously, Alaric has an ace up his sleeve for this. He throws items onto the table from his pouch. A gauntlet with plus 50 points, a gemstone with plus 20, and a bracelet with plus 50. Even so, Barnaby does not miss the chance to complain that he took far too long to do that. You and I saw that coming, right? This tool is actually the hammer of Vulcan, the legendary god of all smiths. The item is the best there is, and includes plenty of legendary special abilities. But it requires the player to have strength and health above 200 points. After explaining, the brother goes to the washroom. Barnaby says he hates to admit it, but Alaric is truly an impressive man. Elian asks about the masked monarch stories. Knowing the kid was cut in year 12, the smith says he truly wouldn't know. With a smirk, Barnaby says there was nothing the monarch could not do. His power turned impossible odds into victory just by being there. Like when he slew the dragon Nermes after it ate his army. He finished the quest 4 major knightly orders could not. The monarch completed several other impossible missions, too. The memory of being dragged into a 400-member suicide squad still annoys the Smith. Elian thinks the Smith hates his brother, but Barnaby says that even if he wanted to, he cannot. Alaric then appears with the mask of chaos and reveals it was actually the blacksmith who crafted it. Barnaby confirms it, saying it was the single greatest work of his entire life. The masked lord smirks sarcastically, and the Smith does the same, like true partners in crime. Suddenly, Alaric asks about noble estates in the capital. Barnaby quickly realizes his goal, but asks for confirmation. Alaric says he is back, and it is time to move, leaving both of them in total shock. The masked lord says it is his new home. The place is heavily protected by elite guards everywhere. The brothers walk past. Alaric notes that security is very strict since his brother is not used to this. Elian explains that if monsters cross the borders, there will be an overflow. That is why they are so careful. And that is where we leave it. A guard stops them, and while Elian moves away, Alaric still maintains that same unshakable look. Alastair wonders if this ruined site was once the grand archives of Avalon. Back at the forge, he'd shared his bold plans for a grand relocation. Barnaby realizes exactly what's going on. The monarch plans to seize another massive fortress from the local beasts. Little Leo is just plain lost and needs a serious explanation. The Smith recalls how Alastair conquered the Blood Matriarch's lair in Etheria and made it his own. Leo's jaw drops. Is that really true? But wait, it gets even crazier. Barnaby explains he kept the vampire queen alive as a servant, renaming the place Sovereign's Keep. Talk about a total power move from the king himself. Alastair cuts in, asking if any fortresses remain within Londinium. The Smith goes silent before confirming one still stands, the terrifying lair of the Night Witch. For Alastair, it is the perfect spot. It has mountains for defense, a river for trade, and it's close to the city gates. Leo nods along, but he's worried about their current home. The monarch reassures him, saying he won't ever sell it. After all, it is the precious home their mother left for them. Leo feels much better now, but Alastair warns him. As the masked monarch, that house will always be a target for his enemies. Monsters, or greedy hunters, could raid them just to steal his legendary gear. He says until they are safe from those threats, they must live elsewhere. All Leo can do is agree. Now pay attention, because the monarch asks if he's ready. Leo's worried about security, but the young red warrior says he's prepared. He's wearing his cloak of shadows, ensuring they stay completely hidden from prying eyes. Leo asks if there's anything he doesn't own. Alastair just reminds him he is the legendary masked monarch. Alastair promises the cloak will hold. Nearby, city guards are on high alert, watching for any sign of trouble approaching their post. It's just a confused sentry who forgot his shift. Neither of them notice the two brothers slipping past. Leo thinks this is amazing, but Alastair tells him to stay sharp and keep moving forward. He plans to regroup after clearing the main checkpoint. Leo gets excited and begs for his own cloak, but Alastair wonders if he's got something shady in mind today. The kid quickly denies having any bad ideas. You and I see the Night Witch's castle looming in the distance. Leo notes it's never been conquered, thinking the legendary heroes have gone soft since returning home. Leo warns him that the place is crawling with succubi and incubi, making it nearly impossible to invade without being bewitched. Alastair mentions that many archmages returned. Didn't they craft any charms to protect themselves from such tricks? Power means nothing if you lack the rare ingredients needed to forge powerful anti-magic artifacts. To craft that gear, you'd need mana stones and other impossible-to-find resources. But Leo warns him about a massive mountain that rose up in the middle of Londinium, where they reportedly found a legendary mana stone mine. Something stops them cold. They realize these fortress walls are going to be a nightmare to scale. Without a second thought, the monarch opens his void storage, searching for the perfect tool for the job. Alastair equips a new item. A blinding light forces Leo to shield his eyes, but his jaw drops when he sees the result. Leo gasps, "Is that a full dragon armor set?" Alistair grabs his brother, telling him to hold on tight. He leaps into the air, flying straight toward the spires. Terribly freaked out, Leo screams, asking how this is even possible. Alistair says he's just warming up. The monarch hits the ground inside the walls, looking absolutely ready for war. He's eager to test the strength of these modern monsters. High above, a shadowy figure watches them from a window. Grinning wildly, a beautiful demon waits for her prey. She whispers to herself that a new guest has arrived. Alistair warns that the air is thick with the witch's pollen. One breath and your mind is gone. Trembling, Leo asks if his brother heard that voice too. The strange, hypnotic aura starts pulling Leo toward the darkness. A thick mist swirls around him and enters his lungs, clouding his senses instantly. But Alistair fixes it immediately with a quick, hard slap to the boy's face. The monarch tells him to wake up. Together, they continue deeper into the heart of the cursed castle. Leo asks if it's safe to just wander around. Alistair tells him to relax. He's got this under control. He says these lesser demons are nothing. He could take down a whole army of them without breaking a sweat. He hands Leo a ring, a powerful artifact designed to block any mental manipulation or dark spells from the witches. Leo asks if the ring keeps monsters away, but a seductive voice from behind says the exact opposite. He spins around, looking totally terrified. Gorgeous women claim they've been waiting for him, making the boy blush. One asks if all human knights are this handsome. And trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens when the blonde offers him some fun. Stick with me, we are watching these sirens swarm young Arthur, offering hugs for his exhaustion while secretly forcing him to inhale their wicked, enchanted mist. The Lord Protector finally arrives, threatening them if they continue to foul the air of the royal hall. He declares he will handle all of them himself, sending those sirens fleeing in terror. Now, pay attention. As they vanish, Arthur is left behind in a state of total embarrassment. Ssîla's roars right into his ear, breaking the hold of that hazy spell. The boy collapses, totally lost. Ssîla's just scowls, telling his brother not to fail him again. Trust me, you and I have seen that look before. Stick with me. The young lord is quite sad these are only low-tier, lesser succubi. Arthur suggests rethinking the move, but you and I know William is firm, telling him not to worry, trust me on this. All right, stick with me. He says this all ends once the lord of the manor finally obeys him. All right, stick with me. Lord Alistair explains these wraiths shapeshift into their victims' deepest desires, leaving the young duke lost in heavy reflection. All right, let's dive in as our duo pushes open the doors to a hallway full of statues. All right, you and I are jumping into a high-stakes siege. Alistair senses a trap and smirks, mocking the castle owner for these petty games. He really expected more from a legendary queen of shadows. Our masked hero figures she is cooking up a nasty surprise. Suddenly, his eyes lock onto something strange in the shadows. Halting before a dusty suit of plate armor, he mocks the lady of the manor. After all, he plans on moving in very soon. A presence lurks behind the steel. Her eyes ignite with a sinister glow as she bursts forward like a bolt of lightning. Alistair demands to know what she thinks she is doing. He gives chase, shouting that he still needs her signature on the castle deed before she leaves. Pay attention here, this man is a beast. Alistair closes the gap in seconds, moving with godlike speed. He cuts her off, telling her there is nowhere left to hide. But then he freezes, his eyes widening because something is very wrong here. Surveying wreckage, he asks if she truly is the Lady Liliana. The entire hallway lies in absolute ruins. They are moving so fast that you can only see flashes and explosions as the castle walls shatter under the pressure. Gripping his heavy claymore, Alistair fights back. He has to admit, this Queen of Shadows is far deadlier than any common demon. So what do you and I make of this? The Lady of the Night laughs, asking if he regrets his challenge, and trust me, it is far too late for that. The Black Knight stares at his shattered blade, stunned by the impact. Now pay attention here. Lady Morgana sneers, claiming his luck won't save him from her next deadly strike today. But then she spots her own severed horn lying near Sir Alistair. He just smirks from the ground, telling the queen to hurry up and strike because he has more lords to humble today. That arrogance irks the succubus. Trust me, we are about to see her snap. All right, you and I are diving back in as Lord Arthur finally realizes who stands before him. The masked lord demands the truth, asking if it is really her, but she has clearly reached her limit. Get out of my way, she snaps. Now watch this. She tries to bolt, but something stops her as Lord Arthur effortlessly catches her mid-stride. The lady screams for freedom, desperate to escape his iron grip, but the Dark One is just mockingly called a child by Lord Arthur. He glares, warning her not to make him repeat the question. Trust me, things just got real. Trust me, you'll want to see this. Terrified, she finally confesses her name is Lilith, but Lord 𝒒𝒏𝒍𝒚 isn't convinced and demands proof of her identity. Stick with me, Lord Alistair is suspicious, demanding why she is now a child. Suddenly, something catches his eye. Boom, stick with me. You and I are watching this fortress wall shatter into pieces. But our masked knight stops the blast with style. Alaric wonders who these horned bastards are. A high-ranking demon named Lady Maren warns him to leave, holding his younger brother Arthur close, while claiming she really doesn't want to spill his blood today. Alaric just flashes that signature cocky grin. He knows she doesn't understand the power in this room. Mask back on, he tells her she should ask nicely instead of trying to order him around. Now watch this part closely. Maren has no clue she's dealing with a total monster. Alaric just waits for them. He easily dances around their strikes, eyes glowing as he tracks every single movement. Then he catches Maren off guard, asking if she truly believes only 6 demons are enough to take him down. Moving with incredible speed, our hero snatches little Arthur right out of the demon's sharp claws and asks his brother if he is able to run for safety now. Fireballs erupt everywhere. Alaric dodges every single blast with ease, forcing the demons to push their dark powers even harder than before. And trust me, you'll love this. He'll take their fingers if they try that again. Stick with me because Marion, the world. All right, stick with me, because Cedric is about to pull off something absolutely legendary as lightning strikes the spire. His blade ignites. Fear grips the entire room, and even the confident Lady Marianne starts shaking with terror. Bathed in the blinding glow of the storm, Cedric reveals his prize. He is holding young Princess Lilith close. He calls her a stubborn little brat, asking if she is ready to talk as dawn finally breaks over them. Lilith, the young demon princess, sulks on her bed while Cedric finally takes a well-deserved breath of peace. The masked warrior gets straight to business. He needs to know, is this truly the legendary Night Witch's keep? Furious, Lilith snaps back at him, demanding to know what else he thinks this fortress could possibly be. Cedric ignores her, joking that it looks more like a palace of charms, making the young princess hesitate. Watch this part closely. Cedric claims she is the ruler here, but Marianne admits the girl has zero clue. She explains that the princess only woke up 100 days ago. Cedric is genuinely stunned to hear that. Every eye turns to Lilith. The masked man wonders if that explains why the queen looks so small. He asks if she is the highest-ranking demon, but Marianne admits their hierarchy is a total mystery. Rankings are just human inventions, after all. Cedric asks if she is the only veteran left here. He recalls far more demons in the Eternal Fortress, but they have all been asleep for ages. Cedric pauses, a sharp smile spreading across his face. Everything is finally starting to click for him. He motions for Lilith to come closer, while reaching into his magical spatial bag for a hidden contract. Lilith peers at the parchment with wide eyes. It is a formal agreement of absolute subordination. She does not know the word, but Marianne screams a warning. It means becoming his slave for life. Cedric turns on the pressure, his terrifying aura silencing Marianne instantly. He tells her to back off. The warrior slowly approaches Lilith, making everyone in the room freeze in a state of absolute terror. You and I saw that coming, right? He just pats her head and promises protection, leaving her completely stunned. He asks them point blank, if another knight attacked right now, could any of them actually stop him? Cedric lays it out plainly. She will be bound by this magical contract only until she reaches her full adulthood. He offers her a final choice, sign or walk away. Lilith stays silent, carefully weighing every word he just said. The girl stands, asking if he is serious, but Cedric just scoffs at her obvious lack of respect. Lilith clarifies the terms. Will he truly tear up the contract once she is fully grown? The masked man promises to write it in blood, warning that any betrayal will destroy her very soul. Trapped, she prepares to sign. Marianne begs her to stop, but the princess is already reaching for the ink. All that is left is to seal the pact using her own magical essence as the ink. The magical contract glows as the pact seals forever. Cedric grins, knowing they have a deal, and confirms that her name is Marianne. The succubus hesitates, her mind racing, but eventually she nods and confirms her identity to him. The demons all bow to their new lord. Cedric just smirks, ordering them to change the sign. Far away in the Badlands of Arendor, knights are busy wiping out a massive horde of monsters. A beast tries a sneak attack, but a warrior blocks it perfectly using his twin blades. With a surge of strength, he shoves the creature back and checks on his fighting partner. The other knight is surrounded, but cuts through them like butter, showing zero signs of fear. One strike cleaves multiple monsters in half. The man is a literal force of nature on the field. Meet Sir Richard Paulson, the level 220 Sun Knight of the elite Golden Order. He orders his men to scavenge for loot, while another knight calls out to his master. Sir Harry Bertland, the level 187 Scythe of Judgment, warns him that he needs to see this immediately. The Golden Knight scans the screen, and a wide smile forms. It seems the legendary Veiled Monarch has finally returned to the world at last. Across the frozen northern tundra, people are huddled together, but their minds are elsewhere. Everyone is glued to their devices, reading the same shocking news. It is the same in Avalon. Citizens move through the capital, where every newspaper headline screams the same thing. The Veiled Monarch has been spotted at last. The news hits the Eastern Isles too. Trust me, you and I better get ready for what comes next. All right, stick with me because we are about to see several portraits of the king being torn down. A man studies them, his eyes locking onto a secret. Back in the capital, Arthur equips his steel armor. He can feel a presence stalking his every move. He turns and finds his shadows. Lord Cedric, a tier 102 Grandmaster, stands before him. Cedric calls him a scoundrel, noting how long it has been. Arthur is done with games and demands to know exactly what the man wants from him. He asks if the Grandmaster has come to beg for mercy. This clearly makes Thomas incredibly anxious. Cedric admits they made a fatal error in the otherworld. He promises not to repeat it and asks for forgiveness. Arthur just laughs. To him, the world they live in is far too amusing. Imagine a man begging for life from the very person who already took it. Arthur agrees, but with conditions. Arthur orders him to hold a grand press conference tomorrow and confess every single crime he committed without hiding any truth or face a very severe punishment. He asks what the Lord thinks of that deal. In the end, Duke Cedric actually accepts. Arthur makes it clear that dark times are coming for the man, and everything he built will collapse, since nothing of value is ever gained without pain. If he can endure this trial, Arthur plans to guide him toward a path of true honor. Now pay attention here, because the castle belongs to our hero now. He makes it crystal clear by carving a symbol of his power. Outside, greedy reporters gather. Everyone is looking for a scandal. The crowd screams that they know he is inside, and they just want some answers. They start begging for the gates to open. Even the director of night management has arrived on the scene. Someone asks if the masked warrior is inside. A knight suggests they leave. This is Sir Percival. A 12-year veteran, he warns that the masked monarch was a terrifying warrior in the otherworld. He advises against provocation, which really annoys the director. Young Cho thinks the masked man should be out here greeting him, so he hates the very idea of going back now. He claims he does not care how strong the warrior is. He is still the management director. He starts pounding his fists against the door. Young yells that the warrior should have found him immediately. He is furious about being locked out. Then, the door opens. Everyone peers inside. The director wears an arrogant grin, thinking he finally managed to scare the masked man. Young is ready to test the man's strength. Suddenly, Sir Percival realizes something is horribly wrong. The veteran screams a warning about dream dust. He tells everyone to shield themselves immediately. He yells for everyone to run. Arthur shields himself from the toxic cloud. Nearby, Monty has stripped off his clothes and is doing a bizarre dance. Arthur knows it is a hallucination. Cameras capture every second of his absolute humiliation. I know what you are thinking. Why would a supposedly important noble like that break into someone else's private property? A sudden ring catches Arthur's attention. He pulls a device from his pocket. It is an unknown caller. He tells his brother to give him a moment. Walking away, he finally answers the call. The voice surprises him, saying it has been a while. Arthur suspects she is speaking the ancient Racilian tongue. He asks how she found him. She simply says she knows everything that happens. The woman introduces herself as Lady J, leader of the Shadow Syndicate from the Otherworld. Arthur wants her purpose. She asks if he is curious about her business. He threatens to hang up immediately. Lady J asks if he has anything for her. She figured a monarch would have something valuable. She explains the Shadow Syndicate is planning a grand auction, but they currently lack any items worthy of the event. Arthur tries to deny it, but Jay mentions that even in this world, gold can be quite useful. He pauses, then offers a ring. Lady J wants to know the details. The monarch explains the item reduces cooldown times by 5% while boosting fire and magic resistance. Lady J smiles, knowing it is absolutely perfect. She recognizes the treasure. Arthur confirms that the ring used to belong to the legendary Crimson Witch. Jay says the former owner would sell her soul to get it back. He asks for a meeting. For this kingdom, they use the lockers at King's Cross Station. She promises to send the details. The line goes dead. Even Arthur was not expecting to be dismissed that quickly. So, you and I are heading to King's Cross Station. Arthur wears a hood to hide his face. He opens a locker and finds a box. You and I are starting this journey at an old manor, where Alaric meets his brother. Arthur is desperate to know what comes next. He offers piles of gold and asks the price. There is also a sealed letter. Alaric snatches it up, and his eyes widen at the contents. It is a banknote worth 10 billion crowns. A high-speed carriage races by now, filming every detail. Every lens is fixed on this chaos. Massive supply wagons enter the citadel, led by a small coach. The lead coach stops first. A passenger pushes the door open and steps out. Out steps a stylish master smith in a fine suit, completely unfazed by the madness around him. A messenger greets him, saying the Lord is waiting. Beautiful maidens with horns lead him inside. Now pay attention here, because this meeting between Thorn and Alaric changes everything for the kingdom. The masked lord notes his tardiness. Suddenly, a giant approaches, leaving Thorn confused by the sudden move. Thorn pulls him into a crushing hug, laughing that the boy has a gift for causing chaos. He blames him for the world falling apart. Alaric only asks him to let go of him first. The masked lord gasps that he is too strong, nearly squeezing the breath out of him. Once he recovers, Alaric asks if he will move his forge to the citadel. With a serious look, Thorn tells him to listen well. The master smith says he did not come for him. He simply could not refuse when the boy has rare materials from another world. Thorn asks if there is power here, hearing that nothing works on this magically altered land yet. Alaric says it will take time, perhaps requiring the same methods used in the Forsaken Kingdom. In that case, it will take 1 month. Alaric demands he build it all in that time, and the smith panics, saying it is impossible. With a smile, the masked lord offers the forge first pick of all monster loot and asks if he still cannot do it. The man is clearly irritated. Thorn says he will need a mana generator, and Alaric asks if a phoenix heart will suffice. He pulls out 3 of them. Thorn is stunned, but Alaric says he has even more in reserve. He tells the smith to ask whenever more are needed, but there is one final thing to discuss. Alaric has another favor to ask. Meanwhile, monsters have completely surrounded the walls of the great castle. The masked monarch carves through every beast in his path, while his fierce warriors fight beside him. You and I are going back to the final mission of the Forsaken Kingdom now. A vanguard knight tells the master to leave the beasts to them. These are the veiled mercenaries. A warrior woman adds that they can hold the line so the monarch can face the demon king. The knight bellows at him not to waste time. Alaric stands there, reflecting on their words. Suddenly, Malphaz appears behind him, mocking his loyal friends. Alaric spins around in a state of shock. Before he can move, the demon strikes, a heavy blow that makes him cough up his own blood. The demon king follows up with an explosion, blasting Alaric back and shattering his broken body. Beyond just power, this demon is pure terror. Malphaz smiles, calling the whole display a massive disappointment. He expected more from the Shadow King. Red crystals fly at the monster, but his shield blocks them. A guild member attempts a surprise strike from the shadows, but Malphaz brushes it off like nothing. The girl unleashes her ultimate move, but the demon vanishes. Her eyes widen as she loses his trail. The villain appears behind her. Malphaz declares she will be taken out first. The monarch collapses, watching his comrades fall. Even in his weakened state, he screams for them to retreat. The heavy warrior asks his master if he is all right. Alaric warns that the king is too powerful, but they insist on buying him time. The butcher tells him to run. He promises they will be right behind him. The monarch tries to stop him, but his soldier tells the others he is counting on them. Even Master Thorn is there, looking serious. He asks Alaric if he can still stand and fight. The monarch orders a full retreat. The knight insists on saving one more life and offers a potion. He will not obey the order, knowing only Alaric has the power to destroy the Demon King forever. Level up. Trust me, you and I are about to witness greatness. Stick with me. Arthur reminds him that's the code of the Veiled Vanguard, and just like that, the mercenary Dives head first into the fray. Arthur screams his name, but it's far too late. He's coughing up blood, leaving the master blacksmith paralyzed with fear. Voices cry out for young Arthur to wake up as explosions rock the castle. The world fades to black as his eyes finally close. The girl lies motionless on the dirt. His brothers in arms are gone. Even the heavy hitter Baron didn't make it in time. Arthur watches his entire unit fall. He stares blankly, unable to believe the nightmare is real, before his eyes snap shut in pure rage. A gut-wrenching scream erupts from his lungs. Suddenly, Arthur is back in reality, finally awake from that horrific vision of the past. A guard announces the arrival of his guests. With a cold nod, he gives the command to let them enter his chambers. He pulls on his mask instantly. The heavy doors swing open, and his long-awaited visitors step into the dim light. Arthur flashes a small smile, welcoming them back. It's been ages since they last stood together, but finally, the legendary mask team is home at last. Captain Baron is level 165. Vice Captain Victor stands at level 132. Alara is the second vice captain, standing at level 138. The masked monarch surveys his elite team with pride. Smiling, he asks how they've been faring, and it seems everyone has been doing just fine during their time apart. Baron laughs, saying they've been eating well and having their share of fun. Knowing his comrades are safe makes Arthur genuinely happy. The monarch asks if the rest of the guild is around, and the big man reveals everyone swarmed the capital the moment they heard Arthur was back. This catches him totally off guard. Baron explains the whole guild was preparing for their lord's return, mentioning one member even moved his entire family across the border just to serve. Arthur thinks that's taking things a bit too far. Alara tells him the entire army is awaiting his command. All he has to do is give them the word to strike. Arthur is pleased. He tosses a heavy suitcase to the big guy, who looks confused. The monarch reveals it holds 3 billion gold coins. The plan is simple. Use that massive fortune to relocate their entire headquarters to this very castle. Check this out. His news leaves them stunned, especially since construction on the site has already started. Countless workers are swarming the grounds with massive tasks ahead of them. High above, Arthur and Charles watch everything unfold, impressed by how fast the project is moving. Charles agrees, noting that over 100 men, including the elite mercenaries, are putting in the work to finish the fortress. He adds the workshop's great furnace is nearly complete, meaning they'll be able to forge gear at an even more incredible pace. Suddenly, Arthur tells him to start preparing himself, which leaves the master blacksmith looking pretty confused about what's coming next. Then the monarch reveals his plan for world conquest, terrifying Charles. Meanwhile, in the southern kingdom of Italos, a mysterious woman sips her drink. She smiles softly, asking her partner if he's heading out, then suggests he should probably grab a bite to eat first. Known as the Crimson Witch of the Red Magic Tower, she's level 205. Something about the atmosphere makes her partner tremble. The clock strikes exactly 1. The woman gazes at him and asks if he's brought the special item they discussed. He rattles a crimson box, showing it off as the witch leans in with curiosity. The lock is snapped open immediately. A brilliant crimson light bathes the witch's face, confirming it really is her signature ring. She demands to know how it returned to the physical world and if the masked monarch had a hand in this. Now here's where it gets crazy. The man demands 20 billion gold coins for the ring and asks how she'll pay. Over the magical link, she orders the gold transferred to the same account. 20 billion coins are sent in an instant. The witch tells the man to check his balance. He does, and the massive sum makes him stand up in shock. Satisfied with the payment, the man finally answers her question, confirming the legendary item was indeed brought back by the masked monarch. This stuns the witch. She grins, suddenly very curious about what the masked monarch is up to at this very moment. Deep in the Blackwood province, a series of violent explosions rip through the air all at once. Villagers flee in absolute terror to save their lives as nightmares with razor-sharp teeth and hideous faces descend upon them from the shadows. Victor explains that Echo Canyon was legendary in the Eternal World as a sanctuary for the restless undead. Located in Blackwood and surrounded by jagged mountains, the cursed area spans across a massive stretch of the realm's territory. Because of that, entire cities are ordered to evacuate when the undead swarm becomes too much for the local guards to handle. Victor adds that nobody has a solution, making it a nightmare for the crown. The monarch decides this will be their first target. He smirks at the thought of his veiled vanguard, solving a crisis that even the king's own government couldn't manage to fix. He declares they'll make their grand debut as flashy as possible. Arthur wants the whole world to know the masked ones are back. As always, a sneaky reporter is lurking around the castle, desperate to broadcast the news the entire world is waiting for. Trust me, you and I are going to love seeing their epic return broadcasted live for everyone to see. You and I are about to witness the start of a legendary king's quest to conquer the impossible Shadow Vale, and he's ready. The fortress gates swing wide as an entire legion of masked knights begins their long, disciplined march toward the coming war. Flashbulbs go off as we see a memory of the heavy doors opening for our 3 heroes to enter the chamber. The Lord warns it will be hard fighting with those weapons, then tells them to ask if they need anything else. One of the masked soldiers is stunned, asking if all this high-level gear really came from another world. The king makes it clear they have plenty of work to do, calling it a signing bonus while the captain remains focused. He shouts that the masked mercenaries will conquer Shadow Vale, then orders every single soldier to get on the buses soon. The reporter shares news of the guild's trip to Eldoria, wondering how the team will conquer a place where every other group has failed. Either way, the Chronicle will keep everyone updated with the latest news on their progress. They are heading to Eldoria for the latest updates. Alistair says he is glad they rehearsed, glancing at the girl beside him. He asks if the ice cream tastes good, and with a happy smile, Allura gives him a nod. The masked soldier says she's had enough since this is her 10th one, but the princess just insists they are absolutely delicious to eat. Alistair orders that this will be her very last one because they have to leave, and she demands to know their secret destination. Now pay attention, because Alistair just revealed he's got a secret job to finish before they head to the canyon. Only 2 sentries stand guard at the entrance to the hidden site. They watch the news, believing the masked king is just waiting for the right moment to appear. The guard smiles, ready for the show. They joke about the embarrassment of failing, but suddenly, they sense a strange presence nearby as someone approaches. The guard tries to shout a warning, but he's instantly caught in a mysterious, thick mist that surrounds them. They both collapse into a deep sleep. Even Allura is shocked by how fast it happened. She asks to touch them, but the king says to leave them be because time is short. The 2 enter the guarded tomb. Allura senses a massive surge of mana, looking a bit terrified as she asks where they are. She hates scary places. This is the bridal catacomb, where the priests and holy knights of the realm were once buried. But this sacred ground was defiled by Belial, the supreme leader of the demon lords. By disturbing God's children, his dark authority swells, granting immense power to the horrors lurking within. The holiness is gone, replaced by a kingdom of undeath. Suddenly, a monster looms behind Allura. Startled, she strikes out, shattering the bones, but the creature's frame just keeps on moving. Piece by piece, the undead reforms, until the king destroys it with a single, bone-shattering punch. Because of Belial's influence, these aren't your typical skeletons. They are on a completely different level. The fallen pope is among the strongest and most famous creatures there. It is exactly the reason the masked king has arrived. I know what you're thinking. Why risk it? Well, let's see what's behind this door. Even the future queen of demons is terrified. Our masked king opens the door and finds a brilliant sword, the most powerful weapon in existence. The Dragon King's mercy. Alistair stares at his incredible new prize. He grabs the hilt and pulls the sword from its place. The legendary blade shines even brighter than before. This legendary blade took a demon king's head and pierced his heart. It is truly a powerful weapon for a powerful player. Something stops him cold. He turns to see an entire army of the undead. The fallen pope stands among them, radiating insane power. Alistair just smiles. It is time for some fun. But before he can move, the monsters are ambushed by a hooded figure who suddenly appears and starts slaughtering the massive undead army. The stranger tells Alistair he did not expect to find him in this tomb. The hooded man reveals he is also a masked warrior, surprised to run into Alistair as the skeletons try to attack his green cloak. He dodges effortlessly, watching as the monsters stumble and fall into a pile on the ground. Using his weapon, he carves a massive magic circle into the dirt, using the monsters themselves. His eyes glow as he chants the ancient words, Yassaram Rim Haruna, telling the bones to rise up and obey his command. Raising his hands, he screams for the hellhound to emerge as an intense light blindingly hits the massive army of undead. Alistair watches it all, clearly impressed. A new beast is born, and the masked stranger declares it is finally time for it to eat. Trust me, you and I are going to want to stay tuned to see exactly what this monster does next. The beast tears through the monsters easily, but more keep coming, blades drawn and ready for blood. Stick with me, this hound is a total nightmare, crushing undead bones like they were nothing but dry twigs. Skeletons swarm the beast, but that only fuels its rage. It lunges forward, ripping those bony soldiers into absolute scrap. Silas can only stand there and watch. Honestly, the whole scene has him completely terrified. The hellhound goes on a rampage, leaving a trail of shattered remains behind. It snaps spines with one bite before letting out a bone-chilling scream. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning strikes from above. That finally puts an end to the beast. Our hooded hero looks toward the source. It is the fallen bishop, looming in the shadows. The bishop fires another blast of pure energy. It is a massive strike, but the masked warrior walks away without a scratch. The monster lunges for a head-on clash. The hooded man narrowly dodges, chanting ancient words of power as he moves. 𝑨𝒄𝒄𝒆𝒔𝒔. The dark incantation continues even as the creature relentlessly hunts him down. Now pay attention. He summons a whole pack of hellhounds. The bishop strikes back with his unholy relic, blasting them all at once. They fall one by one, but the numbers are just too high to handle alone. The bishop clears them with ease. Watching from the sidelines, our hooded friend is starting to panic. A blast levels his position. The bishop thinks it is over, but the counterattack is faster than he ever expected. The masked monarch steps in with a shield, but our hooded friend is stubborn, snapping that he never asked for a savior. Sir Alaric just chuckles. Same old stubborn fool, he says. The monarch draws his new weapon, ready to end this. He strikes instantly with the legendary dragon blade. Even the bishop looks terrified as a massive explosion rocks the field. Even our hooded ally is stunned by the power. Alaric reveals they haven't met since their first suicide mission. Meet the legendary necromancer, Alistair Vance. Alistair asks why he isn't at the Howling Ravine, and Alaric demands to know what he's doing here instead. Alistair says the reason is simple. He needs top-quality bones. Alaric calls him insane for coming here without backup. But he has one more offer. He wants the necromancer to join the ranks of the Obsidian Order. Alistair asks why he should. Alaric smiles, mentioning Alistair's dream of surpassing the great Lord Arthur. The monarch offers to make that dream a reality. Alistair hesitates, noting the order is already powerful enough. With a cold smile, Alaric reveals the true goal. They are going to kill the Demon King once and for all. Let's pivot to the capital. Lady Jane just arrived at the port when her communicator starts ringing. She picks up instantly. Nearby, a crowd gathers around the town criers to hear about the Order's victory at the Howling Ravine. Jane listens closely as the latest reports come in. She finally connects the dots. Looking at the news, she realizes she needs to find the masked monarch immediately. Jane enters a quiet tea house, searching for her contact. It doesn't take long to spot him. She sees young Sebastian waiting at a table and calls out to the boy. She asks for the monarch, but the boy plays dumb. Jane is shocked he knows the imperial tongue, but he's a player too. She admits she prefers this language after spending so much time in the Shadow Realms. Back there, people from every kingdom could finally understand one another. Regardless, she is honored. Jane introduces herself as the mistress of the Dark Chamber of Commerce. They sit for tea, and she quickly offers her congratulations on the massive win at the Howling Ravine. She asks for Alaric, but Sebastian explains his brother had urgent matters and sent him instead. Jane knows the Crimson Warrior is always busy. She asks to see the treasure, and Sebastian hands over the box. Jane opens the lid eagerly. Her eyes widen as she sees the artifact inside. She promises her people will handle the sale perfectly, but there is one more detail that needs their attention. Sebastian mentions his brother's secret request. Jane confirms that all the invitations have been sent as ordered. The boy wants more info, but Jane says they have no choice. Nobody ignores an invite from the monarch. Lords question Sir Richard about the visit. Inside the carriage, he asks if they've reached the Blackwood Forest. Meet Michael Byrne, the Hammer of God, a legendary leader within the Cathedral Knights of the Realm. And that's where we leave it. Meet Lady Lucinda, the lethal master of the 9 Dragon Sword Guild. Wild, right? Stick with me. You and I are about to see the world's greatest knights feasting at the Shadow Citadel. Baron Ivan wants more pancakes. 2 ironclad guards stand watch at the heavy oak doors. Sir Roland of the Eastern Isles calmly sips his tea. Duke Manfred of the Dragon Slayers arrives next, his heavy armor clinking with every step. He's certain this is the place, the sovereign's fortress, where the secret invitation summoned them all for this meeting. Soon, word of their arrival spreads everywhere. The Royal Gazette confirms the masters of every great house reached Albion at dawn today. Everyone across the land is buzzing about this sudden visit. To their shock, the gates opened. A massive, beautiful banquet was already waiting for the High Lords inside the Grand Hall. Sir Richard is suspicious, while Ivan stays relaxed. Little do they know, eyes are watching them from the shadows high above. The royal advisors can't believe these bitter rivals are standing in the same room. It hasn't happened since the first Great Crusade years ago. The blacksmith chuckles, saying Alistair has a real gift for making headlines. Pay attention here, this is where things get truly heated. Michael slams the table, demanding to know how long they must wait, and threatens to leave this instant. Richard calls him impatient. Some things, it seems, never change with men like him. Lady Lucinda agrees, claiming the sovereign treats the most powerful lords in the land like they are just simple court decorations. The long-haired knight doesn't quite catch her meaning. Lucinda explains that the sovereign used them like pawns in the void, but Ivan disagrees. He claims they all did a great job helping him finish that final legendary quest. With a sharp smile, he asks if the task was even possible without their help. Lord Louis snaps that the masked man stole the credit. Richard jumps in, telling everyone to be honest for once. He says it's not about the fame. It's about the lost treasures they never received as their reward. Louis asks if that's exactly why they've come, to find out what the real prize is. Michael reminds everyone that the masked man brought back actual relics. Just look at the mercenaries' gear. It's clearly armor forged in the ancient fires of the void. Richard eyes the men carefully. Suddenly, a booming voice draws their attention. The Shadow Sovereign enters the hall, announcing they should celebrate a day like this. He remarks that nobody expected this group of legends to ever share a room again. Michael isn't buying it. He knows this isn't some friendly reunion for old war stories. He demands to know the real reason they're here. Alistair smiles, ready to stop wasting time. He raises an arm. His hand vanishes into thin air, leaving the noble guests completely breathless with shock. Roland quickly realizes it's a rift into a dimensional pocket. Something massive is being pulled out of it, a legendary relic that leaves everyone in the room shocked. Furious, Michael demands to know how he got his hands on that. It's his own warhammer. He charges, but Alistair tells him to stay back. He's here to return the items to their rightful owners. Michael stops cold, absolutely stunned by hearing those words. You and I both know there's a catch, and here it is. He suggests they start a massive weapon auction. That hits like a thunderbolt. Michael explodes, asking what this kid thinks he's doing with property that belongs to him. Alistair just asks why it's his. He simply found these ownerless artifacts scattered across the game world. He asks if there's a problem. Naturally, that sends Michael's temper through the roof. Richard shocks the hall by announcing he'll buy the hammer. Michael is reeling, but the Golden Knight makes it clear. If the sovereign said it's an auction, that means anyone with enough gold can bid. Michael growls that once his hammer is back, he'll kill everyone. Someone tells them to shut up. An official starts the bid at 10 million gold, with 500,000 increments. And so, the auction begins. In private, Lady Jane asks if he's being too cruel. Alistair just plays dumb about the whole thing. She wants to know his true goal here. Is he after gold or power? He replies it's all just bait, leaving the woman more curious than ever. He says the lure is set, and now they'll bite. Trust me, you and I are about to see his master plan for this summit. Bids fly, reaching 31 million. Richard raises again, driving the hammer's former owner into a total frenzy. Suddenly, a massive bid of 200 million gold drops. It's Duke Manfred. The auctioneer asks if anyone else wants to bid, or they'll move to the next item. Desperate to get his legacy back, Michael bets 210 million gold. The auctioneer's cold gaze turns toward Michael Byrne. All right, you and I are diving into the auction of the century as a legendary relic hits the stage. leaving Lord Richard completely stunned. He scans the room, paranoid, wondering which of these high lords will turn traitor just to get their hands on it. Sir Michael wears a twisted smirk, finally ready for his revenge. He opens the bid at 200 million gold, making things desperate for the Golden Knight, just as the midnight auction finally closes. Lord Richard walks alone through the cool night air, until a cold voice from the shadows demands they settle their scores. There stands a furious Sir Michael. Richard just shrugs, claiming he has no idea what this little tantrum is even about. He complains that the long-haired fool cost him 200 million gold, but Michael snaps that the money is irrelevant now. Drawing a dagger, he lunges. The duel explodes into a flurry of steel and localized magical blasts. The Solar Knight asks if he really wants to do this, while Michael swears he won't be disrespected anymore, vowing to end Richard's life right here. Richard isn't pulling any punches either. With a lightning strike, his heavy gauntlet smashes into the blonde knight, sending him tumbling away like a wounded dog. Michael is down and out. Richard looks down, reminding the fool that his rank was always higher back in the high world. Pay attention here. Even in this realm, the hierarchy remains the same. Enraged, Michael charges with his blade, catching the Golden Knight off guard. Still, Richard narrowly avoids the strike, which shatters the stone wall right behind his head. Seeing the destruction, Richard realizes this isn't a game. He finally draws his own legendary blade to finish it. He declares that only one of them leaves alive. Michael heaves his massive warhammer, fully agreeing with those grim terms. Sword against hammer, they prepare for a final, lethal clash under the silent moonlight. The air is thick with the scent of coming blood. The two rivals stare each other down. Total confusion. Neither man feels a hit. Both Richard and Michael stand there, completely baffled by the lack of any impact at all. Michael yells at the Golden Knight for holding back, but Richard denies it, immediately throwing a heavy punch at the long-haired warrior. Michael strikes back, but suddenly pauses. He looks lost, unable to comprehend what is happening to his strength. Richard is in the exact same boat, staring at his weapon as if it were a useless toy. The sun's benediction is failing, just like Lord Tyan's fury. Up in a high tower, the sovereign, Lord 𝒂𝒂𝒈, watches their struggle with a grin. He smiles to himself. They finally took the bait exactly as he planned. Richard shouts at the masked sovereign for tricking him, but the master simply scoffs, asking why he should have explained how to use the sword. He tells the knight he should have checked his own merit points before wasting a fortune on high-tier gear. Beaten, Richard asks what the price is. What must he do to actually wield the power of that blade? The sovereign wants him to beg. He knows the kingdom of Albion is drowning in dungeons that their own knights are too weak to clear. 𝒂𝒂𝒈 offers to solve their little monster problem, leaving the noble knight absolutely speechless. Richard says that is impossible. Things might be easy in the east, but Albion's dungeons are under the strictest military lockdown. Now let that sink in. The sovereign is literally demanding he beg, just in case they eventually realize they need a real god. The master remains calm, while Richard realizes he is caught in a deadly trap. He storms out of the sovereign's chambers, only to find a very strange sight waiting. The other high lords are there. The bald commander demands to know if the masked man also offered him a deal for the dungeons. Richard sighs, realizing the sovereign played them all. Meanwhile, Michael is already losing his mind with rage as usual. He screams about being cheated, swearing that this ends in blood and there will be no peace between them ever again. Someone asks if the blonde fool is actually brain dead, finally cutting his loud tantrum short. Richard tells him to face reality. With such a pathetic weapon, he couldn't block a single real strike, leaving Michael completely silent for once. He tells them all to think carefully. Should they really be making a deal with a devil like the sovereign? The masters fall silent. Far away on Mount Oakhaven, monstrous beasts shriek as they charge. A red giant clashes with the undead, shattering their bone bodies into dust. With one devastating punch, he pulverizes every skeleton that dares to approach. A skeleton tries a cowardly backstab, but the massive red beast is too fast, and the undead loses its head instantly. More skeletons swarm the giant warriors. As the carnage unfolds, a lone figure watches the slaughter from the high cliffs. It is 𝒏𝒐𝒏𝒃. Sang-huk appears, amazed he cleared the shadow path alone. You and I know this is only the beginning. All right, you and I are jumping back into the action, where the necromancer questions our hero's level. The masked man chuckles, impressed by how fast he caught on. Pivoting, the hooded figure demands to know the reason behind such a wild and truly absurd request. What truly became of those who attended the grand auction? He realizes this isn't just a game anymore. Death is permanent now. 𝒏𝒐𝒏𝒃 asks him just how far he intends to push this dangerous game. Sean believes the warriors must grow stronger to survive the coming slaughter. Lord 𝒏𝒐𝒏𝒃 watches the man in a heavy, cold silence. He notes his massive stash of gear, but wonders exactly how many soldiers he can actually arm before the war begins. 𝒏𝒐𝒏𝒃 knows there are over 100 million lone warriors within the Eternal Realm. Arming everyone is impossible. Perhaps there's another path, but choosing who lives is a burden he can't carry. Ultimately, every single warrior must find their own inner strength to survive this. Now, watch this carefully. The necromancer isn't satisfied with that answer at all. 𝒏𝒐𝒏𝒃 needs to explain his true motives much more clearly. He recalls that tragic day losing young Simon, remembering how his brother swore they would stand together until the very bitter end of it all. He also remembers Lady Frost promising to buy him time to escape the fortress. His squad believed only he could slay the archdemon, so they refused to abandon their post. The entire party was prepared for the journey's end. 𝒏𝒐𝒏𝒃 fought on, searching for a spark of hope, only to find his entire guild slaughtered. In the darkness, Lord Bale whispers that things are finally getting fun. He relishes the chaos. The archdemon wears a wicked grin, while 𝒏𝒐𝒏𝒃 glares back with absolute, burning fury. 𝒏𝒏𝒃 made a crazy request, simply because he refuses to lose his comrades ever again. Sean stays silent, finally understanding the weight. Across the kingdom, rumors fly about the lone conqueror and the masked knights who purged the fallen cathedral. New tales emerged of lands claimed by the masked one. You and I saw this coming, but reports claim 𝒏𝒏𝒃 cleared 3 impossible dungeons alone, turning the kingdom of Albion into the world's most feared powerhouse. At House JW, the Duke demands to know why they still haven't contacted the masked lord. The Duke roars. He screams that the whole world is watching Albion, offering a fortune just to get 𝒏𝒏𝒃 on camera. Meanwhile, 𝒏𝒏𝒃 watches the sunset from a remote island. He wears that same enigmatic smile. A scout thinks this scene is pure gold and wonders if he should approach. A message arrives from Lady Jane. She asks how it feels to be the realm's idol, but 𝒏𝒏𝒃 threatens to end the communication if she's wasting time. Jane laughs at his coldness and cuts straight to the heart of the matter. Word arrived from the Western Empire, congratulating him on the success of his master plan. Meanwhile, in the scorched Western Barrens, it's clear that something has gone horribly wrong. 𝒏𝒏𝒃 was tasked with conquering a cursed dungeon. It was quiet until heavy artillery fire rained down, blowing the entire site to Kingdom Come. The site is under heavy bombardment as smoke billows from the massive cannons. The barrage is complete. Commanders demand a confirmation of the strike while the crystals broadcast it live. Visibility is 0 due to the magical storm. They request a visual for the first squadron, but the thick fog makes seeing anything completely impossible. Switching to their backup plan, they deploy an elite task force supported by heavy armored wagons. The knights are fully armored and ready for slaughter. But through the mist, terrifying red eyes begin to glow in the shadows. A sudden blast rocks the line. It's an ambush, but the commanders scream to hold formation. The unseen enemy strikes from within the mist, leaving the troops blind to the carnage. A guard peers into the fog. Suddenly, a bone-chilling roar from behind freezes his blood, and he spins around in terror. He draws his bow and fires wildly, standing alone against the encroaching monsters of the dark. At the Royal Air Harbor, a grand carriage has touched down. The doors swing open as the weary travelers disembark. Lord Richard greets him, noting that the warrior finally got his wish. Silas, the Golden Knight, asks if he should be grateful, but then waves it off. Richard simply wishes him luck. He has full faith in the masked man, mirroring Silas's own cold confidence in this mess. Inside the private chamber, Richard breaks the heavy silence, admitting that things on the front lines look incredibly grim. He explains that 5 noble houses, including House Absolute, failed to conquer the dungeon for years. None succeeded, and even the king's massive military siege not long ago ended in a total, bloody disaster. Silas knows the stakes, and trust me, you and I are going to want to see the catch he's about to face. All right, you and I are about to watch Silas ask what the man is staring at. While Lyra whines for sweets, Sir Richard looks at them in total disbelief. He asks the sovereign if it is really just the 3 of them. Arthur explains the order is busy across the empire, and other dungeons still need clearing before the darkness spreads further. Losing his cool, Richard tells him to listen because he thinks the sovereign clearly does not understand the danger. He warns that hundreds have perished in this cursed place, and it will not be as easy as the sovereign believes. Suddenly, the hooded warrior catches his eye. Silas admits he does not quite grasp what the 2 high lords are arguing about right now, but tells the knight not to fear because they will not fail. Richard is still uneasy as the journey continues. Over the ashen wastes, scouting birds fly past the camps below. The area is swarming with scribes preparing their magical quills. Suddenly, the crowd freezes. At long last, the masked sovereign has arrived to face his destiny. They swarm the warrior, desperate to know if he truly believes he can conquer this nightmare alone. Arthur watches the chaos from above, but there is nothing to see through the thick, choking haze of dust. Pay attention here. This hollow labyrinth was considered impossible to conquer, not just in the mortal realm, but in the eternal realm. Silas asks if he has entered before. Arthur explains the labyrinth does not just shift its twisted paths, but it also changes the monsters. He once defeated the beast inside, yet even then, he failed to fully cleanse the entire dungeon. The signal is given to enter. Arthur tells them to stay calm. He is far stronger now than he was before. The iron carriage that brought them remains waiting. A heavy knock hits the carriage door, forcing Richard to open it. Lord Harold, commander of the vanguard, asks if only 3 souls are truly braving that hell. Richard simply nods, telling the commander he saw them himself. Harold admits he respects the sovereign, but he still thinks this plan is pure madness. Entire legions failed to even find the entrance to the hollow labyrinth, so how could 3 people possibly hope to succeed? The Gilded Knight stays silent, searching for an answer he does not have. Yet, Richard knows they will not fail for one reason. The masked sovereign is the only soul to conquer every trial in the eternal realm. The mist thickens around them, stealing their sight. Silas asks how they could possibly know if they are heading the right way. But Arthur warns him to stay alert. This is where most men lose their minds before the monsters feast on them. Lyra starts whining for honey cakes again. The sovereign promises to buy her a feast once the task is finished if she will just stop her complaining and stay quiet. He promises her 10 whole cakes. Lyra beams with joy, making him swear on his word to keep the promise. Knowing she is not mortal, Silas demands to know why the sovereign brought a mere child along. But the king tells him not to worry. Arthur says there is something hidden he must first confirm. The fog persists through the twisting tunnels, blinding them at every turn. The Shadow Weaver notes it has been 2 hours, yet they have still found absolutely nothing. He asks if they are close or how much further it is, but the gray mist is the only answer. Panicked, he screams for Arthur. Silas searches the gloom, but the swirling dust is the only thing he sees. He keeps yelling for the king. Terrified, the Weaver hears a strange sound and calls out once more for the Crimson Warrior. He wonders why his leader will not answer him. Then, something finally catches his gaze. Now watch this. Silas finally finds Arthur, but the sight is absolutely devastating. The sovereign is broken. 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 cries out, asking who could have done this. He begs for an answer as the sovereign's eyes ignite within his helm. A serrated tail lashes out. Its razor-sharp point lunges directly for the shadow weaver's defenseless eyes. Suddenly, a bolt of light strikes the beast. The real Arthur and Lyra appear. Arthur reminds him he warned him to stay on guard. He explains they are deep in the labyrinth now, where reality shifts and anything can happen at any moment. Even Lyra mocks him, telling the man to watch his step. The trio continues deeper into the dark labyrinth. Finally, they find a strange marker. 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 asks if this is the goal, and the sovereign says the hardest part is finding the gate. Arthur reveals that when he journeyed through the eternal realm, it took him 2 or 3 weeks to locate it, and only after a village elder gave him a vital clue to the entrance. He ignites a blue flame torch. Arthur hands it to the confused 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 and tells him to start walking forward. He will find more lamps ahead, but he must only light the 3rd, the 4th, and the 7th lamp. You and I will see soon if this simple trick really opens the gates. All right, you and I are jumping into a raid, where the Lord tells his mage he has bigger plans. Cedric warns 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 to stay focused on the lamps no matter what happens, and honestly, that tone alone is enough to worry anyone. Leaving 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 behind, the Lord and Lady Lilith quickly track down the next ancient beacon. Now pay attention. 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 reaches the 3rd lamp, remembering the strict order to ignite it before the real trouble starts creeping in. A sudden, booming sound echoes through the hall, making the mage grit his teeth in pure terror. 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 is trembling, not understanding the noise, but he remembers the Lord's warning not to get distracted and just keep the lamps burning bright. He locks in on the mission, shouting that he'll follow orders even if he has no idea what's coming next. The dark mage bolts. More haunting noises scream through the darkness, forcing him to pause before he doubles his speed, desperately reaching for the next ancient relic. There's clearly a reason for the Lord's warning, and 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 knows he needs to finish this before it's too late. Finally, the mage reaches the 7th beacon and rushes to light it. The long, dangerous job is finally finished. Something shifts as the fog finally begins to fade, and as the path clears, 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 sees something that leaves him absolutely paralyzed with shock. A massive golden pyramid stands before him, the entrance to the fabled Great Citadel. Lord Cedric casually asks what took him so long while standing over a mountain of dead beasts, leaving poor 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 totally stammering. He's stunned by the carnage, but Cedric just asks if he really expected anything less from them. Either way, the Lord tells him to gear up, because the raid is far from over and more beasts are coming. 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 is completely overwhelmed, even begging for just a few more seconds to catch his breath. Massive explosions rock the distance as something ancient waits behind the golden gate, but Cedric doesn't hesitate for a second, leading his small team straight into the unknown. They've officially breached the citadel, clearing out the gate guards before beginning their long, grueling climb up the massive, winding spiral staircase. 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 notes how hauntingly quiet the place is, but Cedric warns him to keep his guard up, revealing that even he hasn't mapped out every lethal trap in this tomb, so they must stay alert for whatever pops out. The mage says he's ready. 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 thinks these are just standard dungeon traps. How difficult could they actually be to avoid? A volley of arrows suddenly whistles toward him, and though he barely dodges the strike, Cedric warns him again to be careful while the mage insists he's got it. Another deadly mechanism triggers, nearly crushing the mage's head into the floor. The Lord jokes that he's never heard someone let out such a hilarious, high-pitched scream before. 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 just keeps triggering every single trap in the hall, narrowly escaping one after another while his situation gets more and more ridiculous. Exhausted and irritated, 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 officially takes back every word he said about this place being easy. The mage wonders if he'll even make it out of here alive as they finally push through yet another massive stone door. You and I both know it's never that simple, and Lord Cedric claims this maze is actually the easiest part. He explains that to survive the coming assault, they just need to follow some basic rules. They have 30 attempts to find the correct path between these two doors, and if they fail, they'll have to restart the entire trial from the very beginning. Then 𝒏𝒍𝒚 notices something terrifying. The rooms are filled with bloodthirsty abominations. Cedric adds that every wrong choice means they'll have to carve their way through those deadly creatures. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 says his minions can handle the heat, but suddenly, a magenta blur streaks past him as Lady Lilith launches a fierce, high-speed assault. The little lady dances around the monsters, leaving 𝒏𝒍𝒚 wondering what on earth she's actually doing. The Lord tells him to just hold his breath and watch so he doesn't embarrass himself further. Lilith keeps weaving through the pack, laughing at how slow and clumsy these beasts really are. She circles the creatures in a flash of light, leaving the confused monsters completely unable to react. In a blinding streak of speed, she slams one to the ground before taking out the rest. Watching her fight, 𝒏𝒍𝒚 realizes those horns on her head definitely aren't for show. He asks if she's really a night witch, stunned that the Lord managed to recruit someone so legendary and rare. Cedric brought her along for two reasons: to test her lethal abilities in the field, and to let her feast on the life essence of their defeated enemies. She finishes off every monster. And trust me, you and I just witnessed a legend. She demands ice cream for her work while Cedric stays silent. All right, you and I are about to watch Arthur test his new ally's magic against a swarm of monsters. Even deadlier beasts arrive. This time, 𝒏𝒍𝒚 lets his undead children go wild for a bit. Skeleton legions clash with the orc horde while Arthur watches. This raid is going perfectly. Lady Alara kicks things off, while 𝒏𝒍𝒚 leads his bone army to wipe out every monster around. The trio pushes deeper into the abyss. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 asks if they have reached the Crimson Knight's lair. Arthur says he'll appear when the crystal shatters. The necromancer asks if he is stronger. Arthur says 𝒏𝒍𝒚 might win, but only if he's lucky. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 finds that answer useless, even though the sovereign insists it is the truth. Arthur explains the beast is a striker. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 asks if Arthur beat it solo, which he confirms. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 calls his friend a total show-off. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 is ready, but Arthur tells him to stay back because he wants to solo this boss battle. But the sovereign has a special mission for 𝒏𝒍𝒚, which really piques his interest. People checking their magic mirrors suddenly freeze, their eyes going wide with shock. The news spreads fast. Students at the academy are screaming about something they cannot believe. Go check the mirror stream now. Now pay attention. The world is watching Arthur face the boss. Arthur walks toward the floating crystal, humming between the tips of small obsidian pyramids. He reaches the object and smashes it, releasing a cloud of glowing purple smoke. A terrifying voice asks who dares disturb its sleep. The knight appears, threatening Arthur with death. Pulling a tool from his magic pouch, Arthur mocks the beast for using old lines. It is a transformation seal. Arthur explains the knight was only trapped here. So he is taking the boss outside. They are wrapped in light. Suddenly they vanish, room empty. The live stream goes viral. Nobody wants to miss Arthur versus the Crimson Knight. Out in the fields, they stare each other down. The boss is furious. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 is filming, wondering how Arthur even planned for good signal out here. Anyway, the beast attacks. Arthur dodges and prepares to strike back with great power. Phase 1 is pretty simple. Arthur weaves through the light beams to close the distance for a melee strike. He lands a hit, but the monster deploys a shield. This shield is legendary. Not even 10 Master Knights could break through its magic. We know that item doesn't exist, making this nearly impossible. Arthur has his own way. When the shield cracks, Phase 2 begins. An explosion rocks the field as the beast transforms. Fear me, mortals. The Centaur Knight has 3 patterns. First is the ground stomp. It causes massive destruction and a heavy stun. Then comes the area attack. Twin blades shred everything in sight. Pattern 3, just run. Arthur dodges a headbutt, leaving the monster stunned for 5 seconds. Arthur knows the drill. He leaps high, gripping his sword for the blow. He fires a magic burst, literally blowing the creature's head off. The blast sends Arthur flying back as the smoke clears away. And just like that, Arthur wins. What a wild ending. All right, you and I are about to see a moment that left every single viewer in absolute shock. Lord Richard stares at his screen, wondering how this masked warrior crushed the Shadow Warden with such ease. Sir Harry admits he knew the man was formidable, but his power level is way beyond anyone's wildest expectations. General Vance questions the live broadcast, but Richard explains that the Great Citadel resets into a new dungeon once cleared. The Warden will return to fight again. Harry presses for more info, but a sudden call interrupts the Golden Knight. The moment he picks up, a panicked voice reports that the Triton has emerged. Lord Richard freezes. They believe the sunken kingdom of 𝒄𝒄𝒆 has finally started to materialize in their world. Harry demands answers as Richard explains that 𝒄𝒄𝒆 is rising, just like the subterranean realm of Deep Rock did before. Even worse, the floating islands of Etheria are appearing too. He asks Harry what happens when these dungeons fully manifest. The general calls it impossible, but Harry remains dead silent. The knight knows one truth: even a monarch cannot clear these legendary threats on his own. He realizes the broadcast was a warning. The masked hero is telling the world that everyone must grow stronger together. A terrifying, hideous beast flashes across Alaric's screen. Someone just sent the most disturbing image he's ever seen. Leo asks what that freakish thing is. Alaric reveals these hybrids only started haunting the Ever Realm after his death. Now watch closely. A madman began fusing humans with monsters to create these sick and powerful new hybrids. Leo is horrified by these abominations. Alaric stays quiet, but his brother's fear confirms exactly what he is thinking. Alaric realized the monster behind this has returned to the real world, a twisted alchemist named Edgar Thorne. This mountain village looks peaceful from afar, but inside, it is crawling with Thorne's nightmare creations. Alaric is lurking nearby, watching their every move. Meanwhile, the council decides they must stop this outlander immediately. He has raised several villages this month. NPC or not, he is a massive threat to the entire mission's success. Michael fumes, revealing that Thorne is using actual players as his sick test subjects. This is a total disaster. They need to act fast. They will even put a massive bounty on Thorne's head to catch him. The monarch remembers finding his lair before. He demands the location, but the informant says that secret comes at a price. With a sly grin, Jaina offers him a special discount just for today. Alaric pays her with a brutal strike instead, slamming her down to reveal she is a shape-shifting imposter. The assassin laughs, admitting that while he thought his hiding place was perfect, nobody can hide from the monarch forever. Now, he wants to use Alaric for his next twisted experiment. Drawing his blade, Alaric declares that this filth must be erased from existence. The monarch ponders his next move. Later, Jaina greets him, surprised that he managed to arrive so early. You and I know Alaric has no time for small talk. He demands Thorne's location immediately, but Jaina says they are still investigating his current whereabouts. Since the first hybrid appeared in the Eastern Isles, Jaina bets that is where he is hiding. Alaric thinks it over. He needs to speak with Sir Rowan immediately to confirm his suspicions. In Valenport, a master hears the black market syndicate is calling. A member of the Silver Blade Order picks up. Alaric cuts to the chase, asking if he knows the location of Edgar Thorne. Rowan recognizes the voice instantly. Alaric shuts him down, demanding to know if Thorne has reached the Eastern Isles. Alaric snaps that his time is short. Backed into a corner, Rowan lies and claims he knows nothing. Before hanging up, the monarch promises a personal visit. Rowan is left absolutely speechless by the threat. Jaina asks if he is really sailing for the Isles. Alaric confirms it. He has business to finish. Just as planned, he arrives in Valenport. The monarch heads straight to a hidden workshop in the city. Alaric greets Alara Vance. It has been ages. Many tattoo artists exist in the Ever Realm, but she is special. These artists imbue tattoos with power. While others use ink, Alara uses monster blood to grant unique, lethal abilities. She asks why the legendary masked monarch has come. He simply replies that she already knows the answer. Alaric asks why she continues to refuse his invitation to join the guild. Alara is honored, but Alaric tells her to name her price. He will get her whatever she desires. It is a tempting offer, but she needs rare ingredients. Plus, being an outlander makes her a target. So, you and I will have to wait and see if she finally accepts his offer or walks away. All right, you and I are about to dive into a tale of high stakes, treason, and dark, impossible deals. Lord Julian offers a counter-proposal that Lady Alina can't wait to hear. He presents the essence of the demon king Balthazar, and that's all she desires. Citizens go about their day, but a blood-curdling scream stops everyone dead in their tracks. Hybrid monsters suddenly strike, sparking total panic as people flee. Only Sir Alaric remains calm, assessing the lethal situation ahead. The beasts reveal themselves. Alaric swiftly dodges a lethal beam and narrowly avoids a crushing grasp. The creature lashes out with its massive claws. Alaric leaps back, keeping his distance from the monster. Seizing an opening, he strikes with lightning speed. His blade carves through the beast, leaving it in pieces. Alaric executes the hybrid with ease. High above, Baron Thorn watches the chaos he's unleashed. He grins, watching his phantom knights enjoy the carnage. It's a fine day in the kingdom. Outside the manor, heavy guards stand watch. The main gates are thrown open without a moment's delay. Now watch closely, because here's the part where the legendary knight finally meets the masked sovereign for the very first time. The masked sovereign stares him down, noting it's their first face-to-face meeting. Steam rises as the tea is served in silence. Alaric cools his drink, noticing the sovereign hasn't broken eye contact for even a second. He asks if the tea isn't to his liking, which would be a real shame after all that effort. Lord Julian cuts to the chase, demanding to know if he's tracked down the hybrid yet. Alaric admits the search continues. The monarch is furious that Baron Thorn remains hidden within the kingdom, yet he still hasn't been found. He's losing faith in the legendary Order of the Ghost Blade. Alaric explains he lacks the Syndicate's vast resources, so the masked sovereign realizes he has no choice but to intervene personally to resolve this mess. He explains that these abyss monsters possess dark energy from the Yin realm. If this dimension becomes unstable, it triggers an overflow, a massive explosion of mana. Alaric realizes right away that this is a total disaster. He asks why he's being told this, and Julian reveals that an impossible abyss breach has suddenly appeared right near the palace. Stunned, he asks if it's the legendary Heart's playground. Julian gives him exactly 3 days to bring him the hybrid, and if he fails, the monarch says the consequences will be beyond his worst nightmares. Alaric is visibly shaken. Meanwhile, a grand gala is underway in the capital city. The senior official basks in the praise. Guests congratulate the senator on receiving his prestigious Outstanding Service Award. The old man thanks them, claiming this honor belongs to the people, and he'll continue serving the crown with even more dedication. His guard interrupts, whispering that it's time for their secret assembly. They slip away toward the carriage. Suddenly, something strange catches the senator's attention. You and I probably saw this coming, but during the carriage ride, the senator reveals he's been expecting the masked sovereign's arrival and had already prepared for it. Alaric insists the hybrid must die before the sovereign triggers a magical overflow in the capital. The senator laughs at how worried he is over one warrior. He doubts his rival, actually, has the power to cause a catastrophe. The senator refuses to bow to the masked sovereign's demands, but Alaric is terrified. He vows that if the old man won't act, he'll hunt the hybrid himself. The senator dismisses his fear, asking if he's forgotten the true purpose of their meeting. He claims this realm is too old to face reality and must embrace a new generation. He argues that a single swordsman can command the world now and wonders how long they must keep failing just to protect the weak. Alaric disagrees, warning that the hybrid is far too dangerous and asks if he truly intended to surpass the power of the sovereign. The senator reveals the hybrid personally promised to handle the masked sovereign, so there's absolutely no reason for them to panic. He tells the Grandmaster to just stay calm. Grinning, the senator claims his rising rank will soon secure all their futures. He orders the knight to just do his job. Alaric has no choice but to follow. The 3-day deadline finally ends. Dozens of heavy guards stand ready to defend the estate, positioned all across the grounds to protect their lord's life. Sir Alaric stands among them, his face filled with dread. And that's where we leave it, but trust me, you'll want to see how this high-stakes gamble plays out. The corrupt Lord Moriyasu claimed they could pin the entire monster disaster on the masked sovereign, while ordering Sir Roland to stay near the palace to guard the High King. Now, check this out. Moriyasu tells him to let the peasants die, because more dead bodies just means a much heavier punishment for our masked hero. That ruthlessness doesn't sit well with the knight. Suddenly, his communication stone begins to glow and vibrate intensely. Someone is calling from an unknown signal, making Roland even more suspicious about this whole setup. He ignores the signal as the ringing stops. Roland stares at a bizarre, ancient structure. It looks nothing like the city buildings. Then, the earth quakes, a sign the sovereign has started his move. Beasts charge through the streets, shaking the ground. They're massive, fierce, and absolutely terrifying animals. These chimeras have 3 heads: lion, snake, and goat, plus massive wings that make them even deadlier. Lord Alaric and Alina watch from the rooftops. She asks if he's sure, knowing this will spark a massive war. The sovereign simply says he warned them. They ignored him, so now everyone has to pay the price. See, an overflow is actually quite simple. It's when monster mana hits a saturation point, which is why knights must clear dungeons over and over. Now watch this. A master can trigger this chaos on purpose by placing a mana surge sigil on a shadow siren, just like Alaric did. It forces the beast to overload, triggering a massive explosion deep within the dungeon. Civilians nearby watch in horror as the earth bursts open. Panic erupts instantly as swarms of winged chimeras pour into the streets to feast on the city. That's how you force an overflow, even without a full army of monsters. Screams fill the air as people flee the beasts. Sir Roland watches the chaos from afar while the crowd rushes past. He realizes what caused this. Right then, a message comes in from Lord Moriyasu. The noble laughs, celebrating that the overflow happened exactly as their dark plans intended. When Roland brings up the innocent lives being lost, the old man scoffs. He only cares about how these victims will bring him more power and profit. Moriyasu calls them a necessary sacrifice for their future. Roland's grip on his sword tightens in disgust. Meanwhile, buildings crumble under fire. Desperate people trample over one another just to survive this horrific nightmare. A woman trips and hits the ground. She can't even get up before a chimera towers right over her. She screams for help, but death doesn't come. A calm voice tells her they've got this. Sir Roland orders his knights to protect the citizens. They draw their blades, ready to take the chimeras down for good. Despite the overwhelming numbers, they push back, methodically striking down every snarling head. A beast tries to ambush Roland from the shadows, but the knight is far faster and way more dangerous. He ends it with a single glare, but then, pay attention, the sovereign reaches out to him. Roland claims their talk is finished, but Lord Alaric surprises him by offering the brave knight one final chance to help him. In exchange, the swordsman must reveal the location of the secret beastmaster. Sir Roland casually slays the monsters while agreeing to text the coordinates. He's completely finished being a loyal servant for his corrupt master. But Alaric wants more. He suggests the knight completely cut ties, with the noble pulling his strings from the shadows. Suddenly, a scout shouts. The chimeras are retreating to the dungeon, leaving every knight absolutely stunned by the shift. Alaric isn't done yet. He still needs Alina's unique skills to finish the job. She's impressed by his invisibility cloak, and he tells her he has more than enough to share with her. Alina sees the move. After using the sirens to put the beasts to sleep, he needs her to draw a sigil. She'll draw a control sigil to make it look like the sovereign was the one who orchestrated this entire disaster for the kingdom. Alaric admits he could have caused the real thing, but he refuses to let innocent people die. Elena is shocked by his hidden sense of justice. She also asks what he truly meant regarding the person pulling strings behind it all. She wonders if there is someone even bigger controlling the legendary ghost swordsman. Alaric knows everything about the guild's ties to the nobleman. Their meetings were watched, photographed, and now he has proof that Roland answers to a very powerful lord. His secret contact asks what Alaric plans to do next, and warns that if he isn't careful, this could trigger a massive international disaster. Alaric isn't worried. He thinks about it and finds a very simple solution. He'll just let the kingdom burn in its own mess. As the vision fades, Alaric tells Elena it's nothing she needs to know. Trust me, the real storm is just starting. All right, stick with me as we enter a village where every window is barred and shadows come alive. Lord Garrick is nearby, deep in his laboratory, stitching together his latest abominations. Garrick is obsessed with his project. Suddenly, he senses a presence behind him. He turns with a twisted smile, noting how long it's been since they've seen each other. He welcomes the masked sovereign, who stands there with eyes burning like a furnace of pure rage. Silas stares down the mad scientist, radiating cold fury. The sovereign asks why he didn't choose a quiet life in this world, but the madman just sighs, saying he tried and failed to find peace in the mundane. Garrick grandly invites his old rival to witness his most horrific masterpieces. Silas calls him a lunatic and draws his steel, swearing he won't feel a drop of guilt when he finally puts an end to this madness for good. The threat doesn't bother the scientist. Garrick just pulls out a cigar and lights it with a steady hand, completely ignoring the blade at his throat. Garrick acts like it's just another Tuesday. Finally, he sounds almost regretful, wishing he could have left more of his twisted legacy behind for the world to see. He tells the masked warrior not to be so disappointed by the ending. Watch closely now, another version of me will take my place. Garrick warns him with a grin while pointing a flintlock at his head. The sovereign lunges to stop him from firing the flintlock, but the madman doesn't flinch. Before anyone can react, he pulls the trigger, leaving Silas in absolute shock. Silas is absolutely livid about the situation. Word spreads fast about the disaster at Haversham's playground, a rift in Londinium that was supposedly impossible for any knight to conquer. The estate seems calm enough, but the dark red liquid staining the stone floor is a clear sign that something is very wrong here. Duke Marbury collapses to the stones, finally taking his one-way trip to the other world. Headlines about the powerful politician's mysterious death are already being plastered across every newspaper in the capital. Baron Roland reads the latest broadsheets and laughs. Meanwhile, back in Ethelgard, Silas finally arrives at the busy docks of the Grand Port. He scans the crowd until he finds her. Julia is waiting and waves to him across the busy docks of the Grand Port. She mentions the Duke's death and how the guards claimed it was his own doing, but her face shows she doesn't believe that lie for a second. The masked warrior simply grunts, calling it a just punishment for his many crimes. Silas mentions Garrick's strange final words about a renewed version of himself taking over and asks for leads. You and I are both wondering if that lunatic is truly gone forever. Julia isn't sure, but Silas tells her to track the scientist's last movements regardless of the cost. He'll pay any price to find the truth about that monster. She agrees to help, but notes that his intense gaze suggests there's another reason he called her here today. The sovereign finally reveals that he is hunting for someone specific. She says that's an easy task and asks for a name. Silas wants to find the legendary mad alchemist. The streets of Oakhaven are quiet, but in a dim alleyway, a merchant is peddling illegal tonics crafted from the remains of ancient, fallen beasts. The seller claims this brew will boost your strength and focus without any nasty side effects. He even offers a free sample to prove he's not just another liar. In the middle of the sale, A voice asks for a bottle. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 steps forward with a grin, asking why the merchant won't sell to him as well. The merchant panics and digs into his pack while cursing under his breath. He yells that he was so close to finishing before throwing a smoke bomb that blinds the sovereign, allowing the rat to vanish instantly. The man sprints away, convinced 𝒏𝒍𝒚 is a royal investigator and wondering how he was tracked so easily. He notes the guy looks like he's from 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆. Suddenly, 𝒏𝒍𝒚 appears right behind him to confirm it, sending the man into a desperate, screaming sprint. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 tells him to relax and asks if the man really doesn't recognize his old friend. But the merchant is losing his mind and shouts for him to stay back. He spots a pile of crates filled with glass vials. He hurls every bottle at 𝒏𝒍𝒚, but the sovereign dodges with ease. One potion shatters on the floor, releasing a thick cloud of choking, magical smoke. The man didn't mean to use lethal force, but 𝒏𝒍𝒚 appears behind him again, whispering that he is still very much alive. Trembling, the seller asks who he is. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 asks one more time if he really doesn't recognize his face without the mask on. He slowly raises his hand and slides the mask into place, asking the question once more with a chilling voice. The sovereign finally greets the mad alchemist. The man's jaw drops as he realizes exactly who is standing in front of him. Out at sea, sailors on a massive galleon stare in disbelief at an uncharted island that definitely wasn't on any of their maps before today. The captain barked an order to signal the mainland headquarters immediately. Someone screams that the entire island is moving. Back in the city, 200 rare carrots are traded. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 asks for 200 potions by sunset. The alchemist is shocked. His skills skyrocket from 100 to 300 while he works frantically under the warrior's gaze. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 asks for the iron hide brew. You and I will see if they survive. All right, let me show you how our hero turns an alchemist into a level 500 beast. Lord Alaric kept the orders coming, from earth elixirs to mana refills, whenever he brought back the rare ingredients needed for attack brews. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 hit the level cap, earning the title of Mad Alchemist. He claims he spent 3 years working like a total slave. No sleep, no food, just brewing day and night. He asks the Veiled King if he has any idea how brutal it was. Alaric just asks if brewing corpse potions was really that hard, but 𝒏𝒍𝒚 defends his dark hustle. Saying a man has to eat, the carriage attendant tells them to quiet down, and the journey continues in peace. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 makes it clear that despite following them here, if the gold isn't right, he is heading home. Alaric tells him not to worry. Just then, a voice calls out to the veiled warrior. It is Julian waiting for them. Alaric introduces 𝒏𝒍𝒚 to his brother, just as he promised he would. Julian is stunned. He cannot believe 𝒏𝒍𝒚 can brew 100 potions a day. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 says that is all thanks to a certain someone. Shifting gears, Julian asks if he saw the news. The boy is shocked that Alaric has no clue what is happening. Before he can speak, reports show heroes from all over gathering in one massive location. Word is that the mythical island suddenly surfaced in the Great Sea, and nobody knows exactly when the event begins. They are calling it the Great Festival. Alaric realizes this must be the legendary Lost Isle. Now pay attention here. This island only appears once every decade, if it even shows up at all. It vanishes after 30 days. The whole place is a massive dungeon where warriors fight for special merit tokens. These tokens can buy legendary gear from the hidden merchants who dwell on the shores of the island. It is the biggest event in the Infinite Realm. Naturally, every warrior in the kingdom is rushing there. People cannot believe the Lost Isle is manifesting in the physical world. Some wonder if the Sky Citadel will be next. Baron Manhwa is not certain, but he thinks it is possible. Everyone is buzzing with pure excitement. Sir Ian notes that this is essentially the grandest festival the Infinite Realm has ever seen. The Crimson Witch asks if he chose a dungeon to conquer, but he just wants to enjoy the sights. Jay tells him to focus, seeing she has already decided. The witch confirms it, saying they live for power, and when the Lost Isle appears, it is always time for a massive, bloody battle. Crowds pack the arena, cheering for the carnage. A gladiator is fighting beasts while a massive timer counts down on screen. Only 2 seconds remain until the round ends, and it does not take long for the clock to strike 0. He finishes round 4 with 340 tokens. The crowd is disappointed that Baron Thorn only lasted that long. When they complain, they find themselves staring at Lady Alara, who is fuming that she cannot focus. She is stunning but terrifying. They quickly realize she is the Grandmaster of the 9 Dragons Order. They remember her legendary record of 23 rounds. Suddenly, one of the spectators spots something incredible. You and I saw that coming. Her record is about to be shattered because the solar night is up. A memory of an old battle in the Infinite Realm flashes back. Sir Percival is battered from an absolutely brutal fight. His partner lay dead on the ground. He has become far stronger since that dark day. The round begins and a monster charges, but with a single strike, Percival cleaves the beast in 2. He scans for more prey, effortlessly cutting down every beast that dares to cross his path. One tries a sneak attack from behind, but with a swift spin, he slams the massive red beast. A pack of orcs charges in with weapons raised, but they end up hitting nothing but air. The knight leaps high, building insane momentum before unleashing his solar blade skill, wiping out the entire circle of monsters to clear round 1. The gates fly open immediately. More beasts swarm out as round 2 begins. Sir Percival stands his ground, ready to crush every monster that stands in his way. He recalls hearing that the Veiled King holds the record of 29 rounds and intends to beat it. By round 3, he is shown no mercy. He breezes through round 8 and hits 15, shocking the crowd. Even at round 21, he is full of energy. The arena erupts in cheers, though Lady Alara is fuming that her record is about to be turned into dust. She realizes he has been studying the Veiled King's moves. Percival then activates his solar blessing. Round 28 ends, and he is exhausted. But trust me, you and I are going to want to see these final 10 minutes. Listen, you and I are about to see a legend pushed to his limit. The crowd goes wild as a lone knight enters the arena. The boys recognize that aura immediately. A voice behind them explains it is the Grand Captain of the Order of St. Valerius. He stands at the peak of the 13 Orders of Roselia. He is the legendary High Executioner of the realm, known as Sir Adilio. They say he is the strongest warrior in the kingdom. Not even the legendary Shadow King could bring this man down in battle. Sir Richard stands face to face with Adilio. Our Golden Knight is already exhausted from his 28 previous fights today. He reaches into a pocket of his armor, pulling out a small vial of glowing crimson liquid. Without hesitation, he downs the whole thing. The potion surges through him, erupting in a massive golden aura. Richard is back at full strength and ready to fight again. Before he can even breathe, the executioner lunges at him. Richard barely brings his heavy blade up in time to defend himself. Adilio is an absolute monster. The pure force of the impact sends Richard flying back, his boots digging deep into the arena sand. Now pay attention, because this move is lightning fast. Adilio vanishes, reappearing behind Richard with a blade pressed right against his throat. The High Executioner moves in for the final kill, but even a master like him is in for a shock in the end. Richard somehow parried that lethal blow at the last second. He holds his ground, breaks the lock, and spins away to dodge. Adilio raises his shield to tank the counterattack. Up in the stands, the blonde noble watches every single move of this duel intently. Michael looks on with pure dread. The executioner is an absolute wall, and Richard is struggling just to avoid getting hit by him. Desperate, the knight reaches back into his pouch for one last trick to save his life. The knight pulls out an enhancement scroll and rips it apart instantly. He gains 5 points in strength, health, and agility, a massive upgrade for the fight. That shield is a major problem, but Richard notices the man lowers his guard for a split second right before he lands a hit. He only has one shot to surpass the Shadow King's record. The two titans clash once more, causing a massive explosion of sand. The The crowd is blinded by the grit and dust. Still, Michael refuses to look away from the center of the pit for even a second. Through the haze, Lou sees that Richard is still on his feet. He is gasping for air and battered, but he refuses to fall. But something is clearly wrong with the warrior. His strength fades, and his vision starts to go dark right then and there. The knight collapses into the dirt, but his enemy was not defeated. The executioner is still alive, so the player cannot continue the challenge. Round 29 is a failure. The guys are stunned, unable to believe that their champion just blacked out like that. They realize his body simply gave out. Mixing that powerful scroll with a full dose of the potion was just too much for him. It is a tragedy because he was so close to victory. Medics rush in to carry him off so the battlefield can be cleared. You and I both saw that coming, right? Well, the crowd is terrified because what they are seeing right now feels impossible. Either way, the next match is about to begin with the legendary Shadow King. Absolutely no one was expecting him to show up. Soon, round 1 begins. For those not watching the carnage, they head to the festival. Lady Anna is one of those people. Suddenly, a voice asks if she is buying something. It is Samuel, the Twilight swordsman, and she is shocked he speaks the northern tongue. The boy explains his brother gave him that title to keep his true identity, a secret from the many enemies he has made. He learned the language years ago. Anna asks where the rest of their party went while they were away from the group. Arthur and the Carver are raiding the Crimson Abyss. As for Michael, he simply said he was heading straight to the gambling dens. Anna smiles at how much fun everyone is having. Samuel notes that they all want to enjoy what this mysterious island provides. With enough points, you can score some legendary artifacts here, and she cannot help but agree with him on that point. Samuel asks if there is anything special she has her eye on among the merchant stalls at the fair today. She says she prefers peace over battle. Since the king is busy, the Twilight swordsman invites her to watch the main event together. Anna asks if the fight is actually worth watching. He promises her it will be the greatest spectacle of the entire year. She takes his word for it. Meanwhile, Richard is still out cold in the infirmary, recovering from his brutal defeat in the arena. Slowly, the knight begins to stir. Despite the massive damage to his body, he forces himself to stand up on shaky legs. His head is spinning as he tries to piece together exactly how he ended up in a medical tent after the fight. He realizes the physical strain was just too much for his heart. Just then, a strange creature creeps up right behind him. Seeing him awake, it says he earned 3,240 points for reaching round 28. He can spend them at the shops. The creature tells him to enjoy his reward, but Richard is furious at himself for falling short of his ultimate goal. He hears a thunderous roar from the arena and rushes out. What he sees there leaves him completely frozen in total shock. And trust me, you and I just witnessed a miracle. The Shadow King is standing tall while Adilio is face down in the dirt. All right, stick with me because our Shadow Sovereign just hit the final stage of this absolute gauntlet. This beast is massive, towering over the previous sentinel with even deadlier speed. Lord Alaric lands a heavy blow right to the creature's face, enraging it into firing a lethal laser beam that slams our hero against the stone wall. But he's already back on his feet ready to kill. The Shadow Sovereign charges back in, going completely all out. He's determined to crush this monster, landing blow after blow, while a thick smoke screen hides the carnage from the crowd. The shockwaves hit the stands, and even Richard realizes Alaric is operating on a level far beyond any normal knight. Standing his ground, Alaric prepares his dragon blood awakening, while the creature clearly senses its life is in danger. The Sovereign goes all in, unleashing the legendary dragon blade technique for the first time in ages. Alaric basically tears right through him, ending the final round as the entire arena explodes with cheers. The Golden Knight is left completely speechless. Now pay attention here. Before he can even celebrate his victory, a dark mark burns into his hand and pulls him into a void. A mysterious voice praises the hero of the Isle of Shadows, as an old man appears claiming he's waited centuries to hand over the keys to his entire legendary kingdom. The strange figure offers a gift, summoning a mystical book that demands our hero choose his ultimate prize. But there's a catch. He can only take one single item. Alaric scans through the ancient pages until his eyes lock onto a legendary treasure, the powerful Transcendence Potion. He claims his prize, and the stranger just smiles, fully supporting the bold choice. The vial appears, and Alaric downs it instantly, feeling the massive surge of power as a blinding light erupts from deep within his chest. After a brief trip through the dimensions, he's dropped right back onto the bloody battlefield. The crowd is screaming his name, but Alaric senses a massive shift in his own body and turns to check his status. His eyes go wide because his level just jumped to 301. He finally broke the limit. Meanwhile, in the Frostlands, a mysterious painter is focused on finishing his latest crimson masterpiece. He stays perfectly locked in until the final stroke is complete. Suddenly, lightning strikes the canvas, and the entire painting explodes into 1,000 jagged shards. The painter salvages one fragment, wondering if he's reached his limit, right when his phone starts ringing. You and I both know international calls are never good news. He looks totally suspicious. Over in the steel realm, factories are pumping out smoke as the heavy work continues inside. A young woman is deep in her craft when a sudden noise from the shadows catches her attention. She instantly pulls a hidden pistol from her drawer and moves with intent to investigate the source of that strange sound. There's an intruder in her workshop, and she starts creeping through the floorboards to get the drop on them. She corners the invader and warns him not to move another inch, demanding to know what he's doing there. The intruder, Charles, puts his hands up and admits he really should have knocked, but he just wanted to surprise her. The woman glares at him before finally recognizing her old friend, the blacksmith. Back in the capital, the Shadow Sovereign's massive castle is finally finished and standing tall. As players move through the busy streets, word starts spreading that a legendary demon king named Lord Balthazar is about to appear. Miles is caught off guard, thinking the sovereign had already cleared this entire round. The girl snaps back that they shouldn't have invited a lunatic, making the alchemist furious. Diana warns him she'll take his life if he keeps talking, reminding him who actually built the gun. A terrified Miles asks how she even smuggled a weapon in, but she's got her ways. Suddenly, someone cuts in, telling them to save their happy little reunion for later, because things are getting way too serious. The blacksmith explains that once Lord Balthazar arrives, Alaric won't be able to handle the threat on his own. Looking exhausted, the painter asks if the tattoo artist Anna has made it to the castle yet. Charles confirms she is indeed here and asks if there is something romantic going on between the two master enchanters. Andrew explains they both use powerful enchantment, but he works on steel while she works directly on living flesh. He believes that by combining their secret knowledge, they can create something far more powerful than before. And that's where we leave it. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see this team up. Stick with me, let's see the Lord's next move. Lady Dina asks what he's thinking, and Alaric prepares to speak. He then reveals that he wants a weapon, a choice that leaves all three of them completely stunned. Down at the southern tip of the Azure Sea in Creston, the sheer destruction makes it clear an epic battle unfolded here, leaving monster corpses scattered everywhere. Someone hammers at the Golden Gate. The masked lord is on a cleanup mission, purging his foes with zero mercy. Even more monsters emerge to strike him. They are vicious, charging forward with their weapons raised high. Lilith joins the fray, using her influence over the beasts and her blinding speed to tear them down. She is having total fun. Alaric mentions that it feels like she's eating too much, but the princess claims she is still hungry. Lilith declares she'll grow even more to become a lady, just as the Lord expects. The Eternal Realm is a place where gods and demons exist. This island was once the ancient home to the ruins of the great Valyrian civilization. But since the Demon Temple dungeon appeared, it's been overrun by fanatics who worship the dark entities of the Eternal Realm. The island residents were moved to the city of Kalama, And right now, everyone is waiting to see who survives. In this clash of men and devils, Alaric walks beside Lilith. Now pay attention, because they've stumbled onto something truly massive. It's a statue of a woman with goat heads. Rank 32, Asmodeus, the demon Lord 72. Lilith finds a shiny treasure she thinks is gorgeous. Alaric wants to know what she found, but the girl refuses, claiming it belongs only to her. The Lord tells her not to worry because he won't take it. He promises he just wants a look and will give it back. Lilith agrees to a quick look. Alaric recognizes it as a relic of Asmodeus that grants 100 attractiveness and boosts certain skills. He realizes that even though divinity is in the name, the actual level is quite low. But for Lilith, this could be an irreplaceable treasure, so he hands it back, making her very happy. The girl immediately puts on the necklace, and the stone begins to glow. Lilith is thrilled with her new item. Even Alaric thinks the scene is pleasant. The Lord says she can find more there, inviting her on a treasure hunt. Legions of monsters appear, screaming like madmen. Even so, they are no match for the power of the Lord. Lilith does her part too. The girl thinks this is all just a fun game. She zips through them like lightning, knocking them down while Alaric chops every single one into tiny pieces. Lilith asks when they'll find the next item, but the Lord says he isn't sure and should have found one already. She's starting to find this boring, so the Lord asks for patience. But here's the thing, Alaric senses a shift in the air. He watches his steps carefully. Eventually, he discovers a hidden corridor. The masked Lord comments that this must be the place. He asks Lilith if she wants to wait behind, but she insists on coming. As Alaric walks, the Night Princess flies beside him. He notes those statues look like the 72 demon lords. Even though he's seen them before, it still feels very strange. A sudden noise grabs their attention. At the entrance to the corridor, several dark silhouettes appear. There are multiple creatures clad in heavy armor, and all of them look absolutely terrifying. Alaric says they're knights who turned into monsters by selling their souls. He orders them to bring everything they've got. He swings his blade, attacking those soulless husks and cutting all of them down with one single strike. Two try to ambush him from behind with sharp blades, but the Lord easily jumps out of the way. Now the masked Lord is even angrier, charging the monsters and slicing them to bits. Meanwhile, Lilith just stands there. She's actually excited about the fight. Alaric lands hits on everyone. The masked guy is totally focused. He delivers lightning-fast slashes as he weaves through the ranks of soulless knights. He cuts their bodies into several pieces before finishing the job with a massive explosion. It's time to meet the master. Someone is waiting at the top of the stairs. It's been a while since he faced High Priest 𝒏𝒏𝒏. The statues in the hallway suddenly spring to life. Alaric pulls his hammer from his dimensional pocket and wastes no time putting them down. The High Priest watches everything from above, but he isn't just going to stand there and wait. He immediately raises his hand. Up above, dark spheres manifest. Then he fires those projectiles. Alaric notices the threat instantly. The spheres strike the target and explode. 𝒏𝒏𝒏 waits to see the result, but it doesn't look like things went well. Alaric surprises him by appearing right behind his back. The masked guy says it's a shame they met again just for a final goodbye. Fear grips the priest from those words alone. Then Alaric strikes, putting a permanent end to the head of this house. The priest's remains tumble down the steps in a violent burst. Trust me, you and I just watched a masterclass in revenge. All right, you and I are about to see 𝒏𝒐𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆 unlock a legendary relic. This is 𝒏𝒏𝒏𝒏's divinity, an incredible item perfect for a high priest like Lady Alara. The girl equips it instantly, undergoing a radiant transformation that leaves her feeling more powerful than ever before. 𝒏𝒐𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆 is pleased, she likes the gift, but then his own status screen flickers to life before him. He has finally reached level 302, a milestone that almost brings him to tears. 𝒏𝒐𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆 declares their mission complete, but Alara wonders if they really have to endure another long carriage ride. When he confirms the journey, she asks why bother when there is a much faster way to travel. Pay attention here. Her mischievous smile says everything, yet 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 still has no idea what she is planning. Before he can blink, the world shifts, and he finds himself standing in an entirely new place. They have somehow teleported straight back to 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚's dark castle. As Alara giggles at her prank, 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 demands to know how the princess pulled off such a feat. Can she truly return here whenever she wishes? She explains the castle is her source of power, allowing her to warp back from anywhere in the kingdom. 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 asks why she kept this hidden, but she simply pouts and says he never bothered asking. He wonders what other secrets his princess is keeping. As a night witch, she can visit dreams, but her true power goes far beyond mere illusions. She reveals she can actually manifest at a person's location and asks for a moment. 10 minutes later, Lord 𝒕𝒐𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆 appears in the castle, his face flushed red with total confusion. 𝒕𝒐𝒓𝒂𝒈 is baffled, while 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 wants to know the secret, so Alara explains she entered his dreams and pulled him back. 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 asks if this works on strangers, but she shook her head. She brought the knight only because he is the easiest way to demonstrate. 𝒕𝒐𝒓𝒂𝒈 finally snaps, demanding to know if he has been kidnapped by the princess. Ignoring him, 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 wonders if she can pull him into someone else's mind. Trust me, you and I need to see if this works on his next target, Baron Thorn. 𝒕𝒐𝒓𝒂𝒈 yells in fury, asking why he was dragged from his own bedchamber. 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 shocks him by offering to return all the weapons taken from the Iron Order. The price: keep this castle a secret and the loot is his. 𝒕𝒐𝒓𝒂𝒈 asks if he is serious, and 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 confirms the deal has strict conditions. He warns him of the consequences. Meanwhile, the obsidian spire in Valoria begins to crumble. A desperate battle rages inside as warriors clash with a tide of monsters. Outside, onlookers watch in horror as an explosion sends a man flying through the air. He screams as he falls, meeting a grim end on the stones. The captain scoffs at the dead, calling them weak before ordering the next squad inside. He demands they purge the beasts quickly. Soon, news breaks that Valoria has conquered the impossible spire. They have cleared 8 high-level dungeons in a single month. Their strength is terrifying. Backed by the High Council, Valoria has become the world's leading power in dungeon clearing and monster hunting. Inside their elite command center, Duke Sterling admires a vial, questioning if this potion truly brings men back from death. His aide confirms it cured a man who was already at death's door. Duke Sterling thinks it looks like a common soda, but the Western Alliance has already offered 3 billion gold for each of the 320 vials. To Sterling, that is a fair price. The Crimson Guard has many elite knights who were crippled. Sterling orders the sale on one condition: they pay 3.5 billion gold, even as 2,500 soldiers die. What do you and I make of this? It is all a lie. Victor warns the conflict is far from over. Trust me, you and I are about to see just how dark this kingdom gets. Thomas reports they are turning away low-ranking knights without relics. Apparently, half of the world's adventurers are from the Great Kingdom. She claims the realm has enough fighters and suspects the Inquisition views their lives as nothing more than expendable fodder. 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 remains silent, absorbing his allies' words. It doesn't take long for the tense gathering to reach a sudden conclusion. Away from the others, he summons Lilith. He asks if she recalls the noblewoman at the castle, but the girl recalls many faces. 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 describes her as the lady with raven hair and dark eyes. Another skirmish erupts. Lady Lucille watches while her knights trade blows, her own silver plate armor gleaming in the sun. A missive arrives for a meeting at the Valley of Tears in 2 days at 7 a.m. Lucille examines it with curiosity. Back in her chambers, she fixates on the message, regretting that treacherous deal. Suddenly, an eerie sensation washes over her body. Without warning, Lucille is overcome by a sudden slumber until she jolts awake. She wonders if she had actually drifted off. She blames her sudden exhaustion, but she quickly senses a strange presence. Turning around, she finds herself staring directly at the masked monarch. Lucille asks how he got in, but he says that is not important. He hopes the chaos in the Great Kingdom wasn't the goal of the Nine Crests. Now, pay attention, this is the turning point. She reveals the existence of the Royal Inquisition. 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 asks if they truly control every adventurer, and her silence confirms his fears. Lucille explains that upon her return from the rift, the Inquisition had already seized total control over the realm's knights. The masked monarch finds her tale of betrayal intriguing. She notes that when the elite knights returned, the crown offered her a leading role in clearing the crypts. In exchange, they promised rewards. Consequently, the Inquisition drafted every available fighter and forced them into the dungeons. They confiscated every relic discovered, effectively taking control of every adventurer across the entire Great Kingdom. She admits that simple greed led them into this trap. 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 remains thoughtful, processing the weight of her words. The masked monarch questions how the strongest order fell so easily. He begins to ask more, but she quickly cuts him off. Lucille explains that the 9 lords were constantly divided. Their bitter bickering over every decision left her completely powerless to act. Ultimately, the Inquisition dismantled her order, executing anyone who dared to defy their absolute authority. That is how the 9 crests fell while she watched helplessly. 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 realizes this situation is far more twisted than imagined. He demands to know which corrupt nobles are behind this, intending to punish every single one of them personally. Meanwhile, outside the manor, a lavish carriage comes to a halt as the heavy door swings open. Baron Sterling steps out, wearing a sinister smirk that is mirrored by his loyal henchmen. 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 is watching from above. You and I both know the Baron isn't going to get away with this on 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚's watch. The masked monarch's gaze is cold. Inside, a meeting begins as the Baron asks if any valuable treasures were found. They report no legendary relics were found, only common loot. The Baron fumes, blaming their poor haul on raiding low-tier dungeons. Sterling orders them to notify the 9 crests. He claims they have more than enough men to conquer the high-level crypts. Suddenly, a blow strikes. The brute collapses, instantly unconscious. Sterling snaps into a defensive stance, realizing his entire elite guard has been wiped out. He screams at his men to stand up, demanding answers. Suddenly, a terrifying presence freezes him in his tracks. Panic sets in, but before the Baron can react, he is hurled across the room. Sterling hits the floor, unconscious. His face is bruised and red from the impact. 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 shows zero mercy, declaring it's time for the man to pay for his crimes. 𝒂𝒏𝒍𝒚 won't forgive this fool. The man wakes up startled by the shouting, but he isn't the only one. His entire crew is trapped. Julian asks what happened, but they are all clueless, having simply awoken in this cellar. One henchman tells the guard to search for an exit, but every door is sealed. Then, a low sound echoes. John rages as he realizes their predicament. He screams into the darkness, demanding to know who would dare treat him like this. He warns his captor to kneel and apologize or face death. However, his threats are met with absolute silence. The brute whispers that he hears something approaching from the shadows. John snaps back, because his own ears detect nothing. A bolt of magic whistles past his head, slicing a thin line across his cheek. His guard suffers an even deeper wound, sending the men into a panic. Then, a thunderous roar erupts, leaving them all terrified. Savage werewolves emerge. You and I know they are doomed. These beasts use razor-sharp claws to rip through anything in sight, snapping their massive jaws to crush bone. It is total chaos. Everyone is under a brutal, bloody attack. Stick with me, because these werewolves show zero mercy. Lord Julian watches the carnage, frozen by the absolute shock of the slaughter. One man tries to flee, but a shadow looms behind him. Thomas realizes his time is up as death stares him right in the face. Within seconds, he is shredded by those jagged claws. A massacre stains the dungeon red, while outside, the world stays eerily silent, save for the faint echoes of distant, muffled screams. Alaric stands bathed in the silver light of the full moon. His gaze is cold and completely indifferent to the horror unfolding below. He only hopes these nobles feel even a fraction of the sheer terror and despair his comrades felt when they were betrayed and left for dead. With that, Alaric bids those cowards a final farewell. Meanwhile, a massive rift is detected in the grand plaza of the Valorian capital. Emergency bells chime across the city, warning everyone to flee toward the nearest stone bunkers for safety. Now watch this, monsters are swarming the streets in every shape and size. Suddenly, a voice commands them to stop, mockingly asking if they like the fresh air. Seraphina tells the beasts she hopes they had their fun, because their short-lived rampage ends right here and now. Her taunts drive the beasts into a frenzy as they charge forward, but before they can even reach her, they are struck down. Seraphina shields her eyes from a blinding flash of light. As the smoke clears, the hero behind the strike is revealed, the vice commander of the Crimson Drakes. Kaelin offers a sharp nod in greeting, and Seraphina acknowledges him. The commander bellows for his knights to prepare their blades. The hunt has officially begun. Kaelin strikes a massive ogre directly in the eye. Seraphina watches as her soldiers fight with incredible courage against the rising tide. Proud of her team's bravery, she refuses to stay on the sidelines. She draws her own steel and leaps into the fray. She raises her blade with iron resolve. It has been 10 days since the High Chancellor and the Council of Mages vanished without a trace. The Empire now suspects this was the work of a rogue knight, someone sick of how the Crown has been treating its strongest warriors. Consequently, the Imperial laws regarding those who wield magic from 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 have been completely rewritten. The nobles moved quickly, terrified they would be the next heads to roll. As a direct result of their fear, they appointed a new High Chancellor, a legendary knight whose fame and power are known across all the neighboring kingdoms. They chose Lord Lucius, the feared master of the Crimson Drakes from the wealthy kingdom of Solara. Word of Lucius's promotion has already spread like wildfire. To Alaric, this development is actually a positive turn of events. You and I can see his brother is curious too, asking what is going on. Cedric senses that something has fundamentally shifted within Alaric. They visit the Grand Bazaar of Artifacts, and Cedric wonders if this is truly the famous district he has heard about. Countless enchanted weapons are on display alongside shimmering jewels. Cedric stands there, completely awestruck by the sheer quality of the knightly gear. He asks what they are doing in such a high-end shop, but Alaric calmly says he just wanted to scout the inventory. Alaric admits he is fascinated by these strange artifacts that blend ancient magic with modern craftsmanship. A chime rings out as they step deeper into the store. Alaric asks if they may browse the shelves, and the humble shopkeeper gestures for them to explore to their heart's content. A peculiar item catches their eye. Alaric notices the alchemists have actually mixed a balding cure with a magical regeneration potion. Cedric notes that this mixture is incredibly popular in the city because its potency is 10 times stronger than normal. Still, Alaric thinks 100 gold coins for a single bottle is highway robbery. Cedric just shrugs, saying people still buy them like crazy. Shifting focus, Alaric asks to see the absolute finest weapon in the shop, and the merchant scurries off to retrieve it. The man presents a masterwork blade forged by the royal alchemists in partnership with the Ministry of Knightly Affairs. He claims it is perfect for monster hunting because it is exceptionally light, featuring enchanted upgrades that surpass even the weapons found in 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆. Intrigued, Alaric asks for the price. The seller grins, mentioning a special festival discount that brings it down to 3,000 gold pieces. He tells Alaric he will be invincible in any dungeon with this blade. But then, snap, the expensive sword simply shatters in Alaric's hands. The merchant shouts, demanding what he just did. Alaric apologizes, dryly noting that the man claimed it was better than the legendary gear. He tells the panicked shopkeeper to just charge it to his account. He even refuses to pay in installments, leaving Cedric completely baffled by his brother's actions. Back at the Shadow Fortress, they discuss how forbidden dark magic is unrivaled for maximizing the amplification of one's mana. Arthur warns that such power is dangerous, insisting they stick to pure light magic. He says the two can never mix, but Alara argues that things aren't always so simple. She points out that her ritual tattoos are technically close to dark arts. Silas immediately counters, saying that is a different matter entirely. He explains that using beast blood for tattoos only enhances the physical vessel, but it is the raw mana within that truly grants legendary strength. Sir Michael concludes he must find rare ingredients that do not clash, seeking a perfect balance that creates a flawless harmony of power. Trust me, we are about to see a master at work. He calls everyone over, mentioning that Lord Alaric is currently waiting in his study. Suddenly, his silence is shattered. The chamber door behind him swings wide open without a single warning. Lord Cedric notes they should have knocked first, but the Forge Master insists that manners do not matter right now. Stick with me, because Alistair just revealed a legendary elixir that can literally bring the dead back to life, and the whole team looks incredibly confident about it. This is a resurrection brew. Cedric is immediately intrigued by the possibilities. Arthur quickly warns that testing is still needed. However, a test rat was fully restored to health with only 2 drops. Thinking it over, Cedric agrees it works. He wants a stockpile, but Alistair warns the ingredients are incredibly rare across the realm. They will need dragon blood, unicorn horns, and massive amounts of phoenix tears to proceed. Cedric tells them to list everything they need. He will hunt down every single rare item himself. Elena also asks him to take a look at her newest enchantment tattoo. They work together daily, forging massive blades to slay giants and crafting intricate tattoos that grant godlike stats to every single one of their legendary guild members. These were the absolute masters of the Everrealm. Every single person there was capable of doing the impossible. Thousands of players will eventually rely on their gear in the future. Cedric is certain about one thing: they will become unstoppable. As they grind toward greatness, another day begins. The Masked Legion is currently fighting in the Lordship of Valoria. Now pay attention here. They are also battling giant drakes in the Iron Steppes and nightmare creatures in the Scorched Lands. Reports show the Masked Legion has successfully deployed across 3 central kingdoms and 2 southern continents. Either way, the campaign is progressing perfectly according to plan. Cedric asks about the loot. Silas says they are selling the excess gear to local governments and the top noble houses. He checks on the Grand Bazaar. It started in chaos, but right now everything is finally running smoothly. Cedric notes they are only in the early stages. He asks them to keep a sharp eye on their inventory. Forge Master Alistair asks if they can finally build a proper city district right in front of the castle gates. He admits the current setup is rough. Thorn adds that magic tech only functions properly outside the main castle walls. The Sovereign agrees it is a brilliant idea for the future. Cedric tells him to hire the best builders in the land. Spend whatever gold is necessary for absolute perfection. Lady Alara speaks next. She received an urgent message from the House of the Northern Emperor before the meeting. The Fortress of Pandemonium has finally manifested. Cedric is genuinely surprised by this sudden news. Shifting focus to the frozen wastes, an army marches toward the woods. The knights are armed to the teeth as they finally reach the fortress wall. You and I saw this coming. The commander thinks this raid will be a breeze, but he is warned that nobody has ever managed to breach these walls before. They think they will be the first. Their confidence is dangerously high right now. A scout looks toward the sky. He is completely confused by the strange shadows moving far above them. The sky is thick with gargoyles. Commands to draw steel ring out immediately. War erupts at the gates. Sounds of slaughter echo through the forest, while fog slowly covers the bodies of fallen monsters. The Fortress of Pandemonium is the most difficult hunting ground ever discovered. It first appeared in year 5 of the Everrealm and stayed undefeated for 15 long years. Not even the Shadow Sovereign bothered with it. He knew the castle nature made it a waste. It was impossible to enter for over a decade. Other houses tried their best, desperate to conquer the Fortress of Chaos. Conquering this place, supposedly, grants the winner their deepest heart desire. That is why everyone is marching. The rumor is spreading like wildfire among all the players. Bottles are scattered everywhere. Little by little, Julian wakes up with a massive headache that hurts like hell. He wonders how much he drank last night. He is totally confused by the woman sleeping beside him. A voice asks if he is dressed yet. The shadow sovereign is standing there, telling him not to ruin his eyes. Julian is terrified to see him. He guesses Cedric is in the north for the fortress of Pandemonium. Cedric says there is no other reason. He is a very busy man after all. Julian offers some coffee, but the sovereign just wants to discuss the terms. Julian wants his legendary weapons back, but trust me, Cedric is not just going to give them up. Julian is still pushing, swearing that the abyssal keep is worth every drop of blood. Arthur isn't convinced until he sees the reward, which definitely sparks Julian's curiosity. Julian wants a plan, but Arthur insists on clearing the keep before discussing any deals. And trust me, you and I are about to see if this gamble pays off. Arthur jokes about the lack of trust, but agrees to make a formal vow anyway. The masked warrior declares that if he successfully purges the abyssal keep, he'll share his secret strategy only with the Imperial Order. Julian weighs the offer while sipping tea at the Grand Air Dock. His airship finally docks, and he steps off the moment the ramp drops, looking surprisingly casual in his long traveler's coat. A guild vice master greets the hero, thanking him for coming and offering to be his personal guide. Arthur casually asks if his name is Sir Anthony, leaving the old knight absolutely stunned that he was recognized. Arthur reaches into a glowing void in space and pulls out a mysterious, small object. He apologizes for being so late, leaving Anthony confused, until he sees exactly what's in the hero's hand. Long ago, in the Archfiend's citadel, Anthony stood broken and bleeding among the ruins. He was facing Malphaz, a high-ranking demon lord, while Alina lay dying and gasping for air behind him. The beast let out a bone-chilling roar as Anthony panicked over his partner's fading life. A massive explosion rocked the room, but as the smoke cleared, the couple remained unharmed. Anthony is broken and bleeding, while the demon lies defeated, and watch closely, because this is where you and I witness a legend's arrival. Arthur finally looks back, offering a healing potion while asking if they can still move. Alina was already gone. Anthony simply replies that he's fine, though his heart is shattered. He knows his end is near, and asks for one final, desperate favor while pulling something from his pocket. It's a small golden box, containing the ring he prepared to propose to the woman he loved. He begs Arthur to burn the ring with Alina's body, entrusting it to the young warrior. Those were his final words before he collapsed, and the golden box spilled its contents on the floor. Back in the present, the Vice Master holds that same ring, completely speechless with emotion. He can't believe Arthur kept it all these years, but Arthur just offers a quiet apology. He explains that monsters attacked before he could finish the ritual, forcing him to keep the treasure. He bows his head, but Anthony thanks him for finally bringing his past home. Arthur is relieved and learns that Anthony survived, remarried, and is now expecting a child. Wait, you and I didn't see that wholesome twist coming, did we? Arthur offers a gift, but the man politely refuses. Even so, Arthur hands over a gift for the baby, while the guild master remains in a sour mood. Meanwhile, Julian is relaxing with beautiful women while taking a very important crystal call. Night falls over the foggy forest as the group finally approaches the legendary keep. Anthony leads the way, confident they'll find the exact location of the entrance very soon. Arthur bids them farewell for now, as Anthony smiles, watching the hero vanish into shadows. He prays for the man's safety, while Arthur carefully navigates the treacherous, silent path alone. The fog is blinding, making him wonder what tool he needs to pierce this darkness. He activates his mask's special skill, True Sight, allowing him to see through every illusion. Suddenly, the massive abyssal keep looms ahead, but something else catches his sharp eyes. Stone gargoyles line the path, and he wonders if they'll wake when he touches the gate. An arrow strikes a gargoyle, shattering stone as Arthur lets loose a powerful shot with his bow. He wants a real challenge, but he's on a schedule, so he ends them quickly. He walks calmly past the rubble and stops directly in front of the massive iron gates. The material looks ancient and unbreakable, making him pause to consider his next move. He pushes the doors open to find a garden filled with strange, hauntingly beautiful statues. He moves deeper into the grounds until he finds the inner sanctum's locked entrance. The door is sealed shut, but for Arthur, that just means one thing, and you and I are about to watch him kick it down. The energy blast slams into the gate, but it does not budge. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 used his ultimate strike, yet it failed to open the way. Listen, you and I are about to see if this legendary knight can crack the world's most impossible puzzle. He removes his helm to think. There is a riddle hidden here. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 approaches a massive statue, scanning for any clue to break the seal. This is Lord Andros, the 72nd Demon King. He looks further, spotting Count Dantalion at 71. Even the dark witch 𝒏𝒍𝒚 stands among them. Marbaz grips his blade nearby, but it goes deeper. 𝒏𝒂𝒈 is there, and at the very top of the hierarchy sits the terrible King Baal. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 ponders his next move. Once more, he surveys the silent stone giants. All 72 lords are carved here in stone. He is stuck, but he knows a specific sequence is the only way to gain entry to the sanctum. This abyssal citadel is proving to be quite a challenge. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 tests one of the glowing gems, but nothing happens. To make matters worse, the chamber offers no other clues to guide him. Now pay attention, because what he finds next changes the entire game. He considers smashing them all, but decides to look closer at what they hide. It is going to be a long night. Meanwhile, far from the fortress, the knights take refuge in a local inn. Captain Arthur looks calm as he admires a rare ring on his finger. Suddenly, the door swings open. Lord Ian enters with a grin, praising the men's hard work. Arthur asks why the noble has come to this place. The young lord says he could not simply rest, while his loyal knights were out there risking their lives for him. The master asks if the mission is secure, and his second confirms it is. Then, Ian notices the mysterious ring on his hand. Arthur explains it was a gift from the masked knight. Between that, the elixirs, and St. Uriel's blessing, Ian is stunned by the loot. He smiles, telling Arthur he has done well. With a piercing look, the Lord says he expects nothing less from his top commander. Back at the citadel, 𝒏𝒍𝒚 sits before the heavy doors, exhausted from the mental strain. A quick meal provides a short break. No matter how he looks at it, the statues seem to be in total disarray. He tried activation by rank, but failed. Now he feels there is only one option left. He must destroy every single stone sentinel to move forward. He is losing his patience. He wants to uncover the secrets these silent lords are guarding so closely. Wait, something catches his eye. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 finally notices a detail he missed. He has never seen this particular demon before. The knight is finally unraveling the mystery. He begins to count each of the statues one by one. He passes 35, then 67 and 68. He keeps counting until he reaches the great King Baal, who stands in the 73rd position. There should only be 72 lords in this hall, yet there is one extra statue standing among them. You and I both know that in stories like this, the odd one out is usually a trap. Suddenly, a statue vanishes. The stone beast is right behind him, ready to strike, but our knight senses the danger just in time to react. The creature smashes the floor where he stood. The monster grows furious as its prey escapes. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 is not a fan of being stabbed in the back. The beast lets out a roar. It tries to lunge again, but 𝒏𝒍𝒚 is much faster, shattering the stone monster into 1,000 tiny pieces. It was almost too easy, but then something else happens. The remaining statues begin to shift. The gems embedded in their chests glow, forming a bright circle of mystic light. They fire a collective beam upward. A massive red orb forms directly above the knight's head, pulsating with raw and ancient energy. The orb fires a blast at the gate. The doors glow blood red and finally groan open, inviting him into the darkness. Finally, 𝒏𝒍𝒚 steps inside, but a sudden red flash erupts. A giant, clawed paw reaches out from the void and grabs the armored knight. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 never saw the ambush coming. A terrifying roar echoes from deep within the throne room. He is dragged into the shadows with no way to resist, so he simply accepts his fate. The massive doors slam shut behind him, sealing him inside. Sunlight streams through a nearby window. It wakes 𝒏𝒍𝒚, who is lying on a soft bed. Princess Lillian is there, watching over him. He realizes she is there. The princess warns him he will catch a deathly chill, sleeping in such a cold place. Her words leave the knight completely stunned. He finally wakes up for real. It was all a dream. He wonders where he has ended up. A crest on the wall catches his eye, making him realize he might actually be inside the Demon King's palace. Lillian appears behind him, asking if he likes the place with a bright and cheerful smile. Startled, 𝒏𝒍𝒚 asks why she followed him. She simply says she missed him dearly. He scolds her, insisting the palace is far too dangerous for her. Unnoticed by her, a massive beast looms in the shadows. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 screams for her to move, and Lillian barely dodges the strike. The knight draws his blade in a flash. His eyes widen as he sees a giant serpent slithering beneath the floorboards. He dodges the bite and slashes the beast. "Trust me, you and I need to see what comes next." "All right, you and I are watching an epic dungeon crawl. More monsters swarm, but the knight finishes them with a smooth strike. He slices through them like they are nothing but ribbons. That really pisses off the snake-headed beast, but Alaric doesn't hesitate and quickly cuts him down. The beast definitely felt that impact. The masked sovereign practically phased right through his body. In the end, the creature crashes to the floor. After removing his mask, Alaric walks toward the fallen foe. This seems to be 𝒂𝒂𝒚. He wonders why the 72nd Duke of the Abyss is even lurking here. Lady Alara wants to know what this place is, because she thinks this whole thing is incredibly fun. The sovereign can't stop thinking about how strange this is. 𝒂𝒂𝒚 was way too weak for an abyssal duke. Then it clicks. He realizes this place is just a replica of the Demon King's fortress. Alara notices something left behind by the beast. That pile of rotting flesh vanishes, leaving behind a mysterious relic of chaos. Alaric is confused about why it appeared here. Is this the Fortress of Chaos? Alara asks what the relic even does. So Alaric explains it gives a random item. It could be anything from common junk to a mythic grade prize. She doesn't fully understand, but asks if it is good. The sovereign confirms they are extremely rare to find. For now, the knight is going to stash it away in his void satchel. The two are totally distracted when a massive boom echoes. A smoke bomb explodes, completely blinding them both. Pay attention here. This is where things get truly dangerous. A terrifying silhouette emerges from the thick gray smoke. This is 𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂, the 71st Duke of the Abyss. Alaric keeps his face completely stone cold. The monster rushes him instantly, but the knight dodges and draws his blade in one fluid motion. This one is much stronger. The Duke lets out a piercing scream, but suddenly something goes wrong with 𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂. He just collapses to the ground, leaving Alaric baffled. He steps closer to figure out what just happened. Then Alara reveals she was the one who did it. Just like the first, this Duke vanishes without a chest. Smiling, the knight remembers warning her about the rarity. Either way, defeating two dukes in a row is a massive win. Suddenly, a shadow appears behind them. They turn to find themselves face to face with 𝒏𝒍𝒚, Duke number 70. They also fight Murmur, rank 54. Even the mighty Ken, 38, then Sakat, who is at 22. Alaric attacks without any hesitation, pouring in every bit of effort. Another Duke vanishes without leaving a single relic. Still, he gained Warner Prestige armor of legendary tier, with defense 200, 15 wisdom, and 10 agility. He complains about how rare those relics are. Alara points out they still found other items covered in jewels. The girl asks if she looks pretty, but the knight ignores her. He only cares about the next fight. You and I both saw that coming, right? Well, watch closely as they reach the heart of the castle. Someone is waiting at the top of the stairs, sitting on a throne. It is Valerius. He was expecting them. That triggers a memory of fighting him in the eternal world. Was it all an illusion? This isn't over. Alaric looks deadly serious. Alara cowers behind him. The girl is literally trembling. She looks absolutely terrified of him. The sovereign realizes she is afraid of Valerius. Even if he is a fake, he is the master of demons. Finally, the Duke speaks, asking if the human understands that he does not belong in this dark place. Alaric's boldness is impressive. He says he knows he is in the right place. The Duke stands to face the challenge. He warns the knight that his own arrogance will be the very thing that ends his life. Valerius promises him eternal rest. Grabbing his weapon, Alaric says he talks too much for a mere imitation. Without waiting, he charges in. He attacks the demon, who is actually caught off guard by the speed. The sovereign says he will be the one giving rest. Plus, he really wants that relic of chaos. Alaric reaches into his void satchel and pulls out the typhoon axe, striking at the Duke immediately. The fake Valerius defends himself, then fires lasers from his eyes. The ground shakes, but Alaric dodges just in time. Valerius is surprisingly fast, landing a heavy blow when the knight least expected it. Alaric is sent flying, but digs his heels in to stop. Finally, he has found a worthy opponent. And that's where we leave things. Trust me, you're going to want to see the end of this battle. All right, stick with me. We are diving straight into a battle between a masked knight and a literal demon. Alistair looks terrifying, but Lord Bale will not be intimidated. The knight fires a shot, yet the demon blocks it instantly. Pure energy ripples through the air. Watching from the sidelines, Lady Alara is stunned by the power displayed as they fight. Like most high demons, Bale has no predictable pattern. If Alistair knew his phases, he could find a way to counter. Since that is impossible, he has to adapt mid-fight, gaining experience and learning the archdemon's lethal abilities as he goes. However, in some desperate moments, that long-term strategy just isn't necessary. Meanwhile, Bale shows his mastery over monsters. His blade swings, but he realizes he is only striking thin air. Alistair surprises him from behind, claiming he can overwhelm any opponent with nothing but pure brute force. Bale swings back, but the knight is faster, activating his rift step. The demon lord's claws hit absolutely nothing. Bale looks completely confused, searching for his opponent. Once again, Alistair catches him off guard, making sure the hit connects. Now the archdemon is just hitting empty air, unable to land a single blow. Now pay attention. Alistair starts taunting the demon, asking how he missed the attack, before landing another blow that makes Bale grit his teeth. The Lord notices Lady Alara watching. With a nasty grin, the demon suddenly shifts his attack route toward the girl. Alistair thinks he is retreating, but then the horrific truth of the Demon King's intention finally sets in. The masked knight screams for the princess to run as Bale charges her, with a sickening, evil smile. Her eyes go wide, paralyzed by fear. It is already far too late for her to escape his reach. Alistair rushes toward her, but he is just not fast enough to save Lady Alara from Bale's strike. He takes her in his arms, desperately begging her to wake up, but she doesn't answer. He searches for Bale, but the coward has already vanished from the battlefield. Alistair roars, calling him a monster, swearing he won't escape. Immediately, he summons his magical void satchel. He pulls out a rare resurrection potion, offering it to Alara, hoping it might save her life. Alistair senses a presence, as the demon lord leaps in for the kill. Alistair acts as a human shield to protect Alara. Unfortunately, the precious potion is knocked to the ground. The liquid spills uselessly across the floor. Suddenly, a swarm of monsters emerges, surrounding them completely. Dozens of creatures circle them with creepy smiles. Alistair tenses up, his face hardening as the pressure builds. You and I can see the desperation here, but the demon lord thinks the fight is already over. Bale mocks him, saying his own arrogance caused this defeat. Enraged by the words of this monster, Alastair declares that he will bring an end to his life once and for all. His eyes are locked on Bale, but the lesser demons refuse to let him reach their master. The masked knight grows more irritated by the second while Bale enjoys showing off his overwhelming power. The monsters finally turn on him. Now, Alastair has to deal with the entire pack first. One creature tries to strike from behind, but the knight spins, cutting them down without a shred of mercy. They are about to face a hero's pure fury. Alastair tears through them, clearing a bloody path forward. There are still more monsters to fight. The knight swings his blade, cleaving the first one in two. He finds the next target and strikes again, spinning his sword to push back the encroaching crowd. He forces his way through the horde, leaving the ground clear. He lets out a heavy, tired sigh. But just when he thinks it is over, another group of monsters gathers behind him, fueling his rage. With a wicked smile, Bale asks if he didn't warn him that the outcome was decided, officially declaring the end for all humans. Alastair pulls out his sword once more, feeling the weight of the situation. Suddenly, strange orbs of light begin floating around him. The knight and the monsters are equally confused. Everyone stares at the beautiful lights, but they soon realize these orbs are actually quite deadly. The demons begin to scream in agony. It looks like they are being sucked into the glowing light. A streak of light zips past them and heads straight for Alastair, who stands his ground. Whatever it is, the speed is incredible. The light hits the ground, and Alastair's face fills with shock. As the smoke clears, a voice says the experience wasn't bad, like she'd finally found her true self. Now appearing as a stunning woman, Lady Alara asks him if she looks pretty. And trust me, you and I are just as shocked as Bale is to see this transformation. All right, you and I are back at the castle where Lady Lilith is wearing a wicked grin, while Balthazar finally realizes he is completely outmatched. He screams that they will pay for this insult. Alastair just watches, wondering what this pathetic villain is trying to pull now. Balthazar suddenly vanishes from the field, leaving our masked hero furious. Alastair scans the shadows, searching for any trace of him. Meanwhile, the demon lord has retreated elsewhere. He is absolutely livid. He nearly killed Alastair, and he never expected the Night Witch would wake up right then. Balthazar realizes he has no choice but to retreat and wait for another opening to strike her down. Lilith catches him off guard, asking if he was talking about her. The girl easily terrifies the self-proclaimed demon lord. She mocks his silence, making it clear she won't let him escape. Balthazar glances back, desperately looking for Alastair's position. The lord asks if she really thinks she can face him alone. He boasts that even if his plans changed, he is still the demon king. After all, a mere night witch like her could never hope to defeat his dark power. Balthazar lands a hit, but he is the one trembling. Now a stunning woman, Lilith looms behind him and calls him a liar. She declares he is no king at all. In a panic, Balthazar begins to beg for his life. He pleads for a chance to talk, but Lilith answers with a blast of pure energy, sending him flying. He hits the dirt, and his face starts to shift. It turns out everything about him was a total lie. Alastair arrives and assumes he was the castle owner, but since he never cleaned the place, he does not recognize him. Our hero wonders about their reward before the monster's body fades away, leaving behind another chaos chest. Alastair is not impressed. He says this legendary dungeon is failing to live up to its reputation. Regardless, Lilith heads over to see what kind of treasure is waiting inside. Now pay attention, because Alastair stops her from grabbing a bracelet to settle their future. She is confused, so he reminds her about the contract terms. He gave her the choice to stay or leave the contract once she reached adulthood. Alastair seems genuinely concerned about what she will choose. He tells her to think carefully because once she decides, there is no taking it back. He offers her some time, but Lilith calls out to him, looking quite shy. She admits that before her awakening, she simply thought he was some powerful warrior. Now she is certain he is someone she could never defeat. Alastair thinks for a moment and tells her not to worry. He won't hurt her. The queen asks if she should be grateful for that. Either way, her mind is made up. Lilith asks if leaving him will make her a target for the other players. But she also says that if she stays by his side, she might eventually disappear from this world. That is not her goal. She wants to live and thrive in this world for a very long time. So she has no doubts. She asks if the safest place to be is right next to her master. Those words actually get to him. Alistair smiles and agrees, making Lilith happy, though she has one specific condition. She asks if she can finally call him Papa. It catches him off guard, but he eventually agrees, making her day. You and I are moving to the snowy desert now, where the guild has set up a safe camp. Sir Ian, the master, is waiting. The blonde knight spots something in the distance. A lone shadow emerges from the heart of the raging snowstorm. Alistair is finally back, and the team is relieved. Sir Ian mentions he is running a bit late, which our hero confirms. Now, the Grandmaster wants to know exactly how the mission went down. Alistair keeps it brief, saying it went fine. But when the blonde guy asks for more, he warns that the castle is too dangerous for them. It is night in the capital. Silas is fast asleep in his bed, resting peacefully until he is suddenly pulled into another world. He wonders if this is just a dream. It feels fascinating, like he has stepped through a portal into another dimension. A voice commands the sunset swordsman to wake up. Silas realizes he is no longer in his room and struggles to understand his surroundings. The adult version of Lilith appears before him. The young swordsman is stunned and asks for her name. Lilith asks if he has forgotten her. Behind him, the executioner laughs, saying he has never seen the kid without his mask. The big man says he has good looks, but understands the confusion. They all arrived here through their dreams as well. The executioner promises to explain later. For now, he points to an object and asks if Silas recognizes it, even if it feels familiar. Then the giant reveals that it is the legendary Chest of Chaos. Silas quickly realizes he must be in the castle his brother just raided. Alistair ordered the masked mercenaries to grind experience points here, thinking it was the perfect hunting ground. The executioner knows this well, because that is exactly where the Chest of Chaos was left behind. Still, Silas worries if the Imperial Order will just stand by and watch them take everything. The executioner tells him to relax because Alistair said he would handle it. And trust me, you and I are going to want to see how that plays out. All right, you and I are jumping back into the chaos, as Lord Alistair demands to know why this dungeon is unbeatable. Kaelin says he can show him how to win, but it would be useless for his men. Duke Alistair is completely baffled by that. Alistair warns him not to break their deal, but the masked sovereign tells him to shut up and listen very carefully right now. Kaelin explains that to even step foot inside that cursed place, you need incredible mental fortitude, and looking at their weak stats, they aren't even close. Alistair suggests using magical relics, but Kaelin asks if they even have any. The greedy lord tries to demand one from him, but the sovereign warns that such rare relics are nearly extinct in this world. Then he asks why on earth he should give his to him. He says that even if the man gets in, that is just the beginning. Does he really think he will survive? Alistair tries to argue with Kaelin. Now watch this. Kaelin spots a specific ring on the Lord's finger, and suddenly he is on high alert. He declares his work is finished and demands rest. Kaelin asks Arthur to escort him back to the local inn. Alistair is fuming. The two men head out by carriage, with Arthur taking the reins while Kaelin rides along in silence. The sovereign mentions the captain looks pale and asks if something is weighing on his mind. But Arthur claims he is fine. Kaelin stares right through him, asking if he is sure, almost like he is reading his very soul. Cutting to the chase, he asks why Alistair is wearing the ring Arthur just retrieved. Arthur tries to make excuses, but the sovereign tells him not to lie. He knows the Lord's greed better than anyone. Kaelin has a sharp message to deliver. That ring, it definitely does not belong to the Duke. It belonged to Arthur's family. That truth completely shatters the captain's focus as they continue their silent journey to the inn. Arthur sits awake late into the night. He is clearly tormented by the sovereign's words. Staring at a portrait of his wife and son, his face goes cold. He has made his choice. He is leaving the Imperial Knights. He delivers the news to the Duke. Alistair tries to say something, but Arthur cuts him off, demanding the ring that belongs to his wife. As you can imagine, that does not sit well with the Duke at all. Alistair claims there is a misunderstanding, acting offended that Arthur would even suggest he stole the heirloom. He claims it is strictly business, arguing that as the Lord, his strength is the kingdom's strength. But Arthur is not buying his excuses for 1 second. He asks if the Lord plans to just keep stealing from his own men. That hits a major nerve with Alistair. The Imperial Lord stands up in a rage and grabs Arthur roughly by the collar. Alistair asks if he is ready to die tonight, but Arthur just repeats his demand for his wife's ring, pushing the Lord over the edge. In a fury, Alistair strikes him, sending him crashing across the room. He decides he is going to end the captain right here. The Duke draws his sword and says not to blame him because he is doing it for the house. Arthur just smiles, asking if he really did not see this coming. Arthur agrees. He really did not think his own lord could be such a massive piece of trash. Alistair lunges to kill him in a blind rage. But wait, let's see who just crashed the party as the doors fly open right now. Kaelin tells him to cool off, calling him a bastard just like Arthur did. His sudden appearance catches everyone off guard. The sovereign asks how long the captain plans to stay lying there and orders him to stand up. Arthur obeys, even under that terrifying, furious gaze. As Arthur walks past the Duke, Alistair is shaking with pure hatred and rage. He tells the masked sovereign there are lines even he should never cross. The Duke barks that this is family business and warns him to leave immediately. But Kaelin shuts him down, saying this absolutely involves him in every way possible, and points out he never gave the Duke permission to keep that ring. He walks right up to the Lord, cold and imposing. He asks Alistair if he has finally lost his mind. Being this close to the sovereign, it absolutely terrifies the blonde lord. Kaelin declares that from this moment on, Arthur is the new lord of the Imperial Knights. Alistair is stunned, and while Arthur tries to refuse the title, the sovereign is not finished yet. He warns that if he ever sees Alistair's face again, House Imperial will be erased from the map. Then he looks around and asks if anyone else has a problem with his decision. The sovereign is more than ready to crush the Duke right here. Meanwhile, over at Kaelin's fortress, a visitor walks the halls. This is Lord Cedric, the High Chancellor of the Council of Watchers. Elara asks him to wait inside, promising the sovereign will arrive shortly. The massive golden doors swing open, and the Chancellor is left alone. Cedric's eyes widen in shock as he realizes this is truly where the legendary masked sovereign resides. Kaelin appears right behind him, startling the Chancellor as he mentions how long it has been since their last meeting. Cedric greets the sovereign politely while Elara leaves them for privacy. Trust me, you and I need to see what they discuss next. All right, stick with me. You're about to watch the sovereign archer summon Lord Huck for a very tense sit-down. The director reveals he knows about the plan for the castle grounds. But our hero isn't here to negotiate price, believing that gold was already settled long ago. Lord Huck explains that in exchange for the capital's sacred territory, the crown wants him to fight in specific foreign kingdoms and personally fund the massive new city district he intends to build. The sovereign archer demands to know who really issued these orders. He asks the confused advisor exactly who sent him here today. Lord Huck hesitates before admitting the citadel sent him. He then wonders what the monarch is actually planning with this land. He asks how much time remains for the High King's reign, finding out it's barely over a single year. It suddenly clicks for the director. The king is trying to use the sovereign's legendary name to secure one last victory before leaving office. Huck claims his heart still beats for the warriors. The sovereign calls the director's name and asks if he was once a warrior himself. Huck admits he was a low-tier fighter with terrible skills. He asks if it isn't soul-crushing working for noblemen who don't understand a single thing about the infinite abyss. After thinking it over, the weary director finally agrees with him. Now watch this part. The monarch questions why the bureau even exists if it's just a boss around the true warriors. Huck is embarrassed, admitting he hates this duty, but it's completely beyond his power to change it. The sovereign seizes the moment. He asks if Huck would fix things if he actually had the power. He asks if the director could do a better job. Huck sighs, saying he has no idea how that's even possible. The sovereign says others would fail, but for him, the solution is simple. He's going to privatize the entire department. Lord Huck is stunned, but the masked man demands one promise, that he won't ever act like those arrogant superiors of his. He looks Huck in the eye and asks if he can handle that. With his head bowed low, the man finally gives a quiet answer. Yes, with newfound confidence, he swears he'll do it if the sovereign just gives him one real chance. You saw that coming, right? At the Citadel, a black carriage stops and a serious-looking sovereign steps out in his finest attire. He has his full entourage behind him. He goes inside. The masked king is warmly welcomed inside, as the host is thrilled they're finally coming face to face. The High Chancellor of the kingdom says it's an honor to meet him in the royal chambers. Lord Minyu thanks him for coming despite his busy schedule. Then, with a playful grin, he asks if he can call him sovereign. He has nothing against the Chancellor personally. He even supported his rise to power years ago. But the rumors he heard upon returning to the capital were pathetic. While monsters slaughtered the people, this leader was hiding in stone bunkers. Instead of solving the national crisis, the man is focused on changing the laws to keep his throne. Minyu claims the monarch boosted the kingdom's reputation significantly, and for that, they're grateful. But the sovereign cuts him off, demanding he get to the point. The archer demands the chancellor stop the games and state his business right now. A young advisor warns him to speak carefully, but the chancellor waves him off, telling them all to let the masked hero speak freely. He suggests dropping formalities as the foreign minister steps forward to introduce himself. Lord Hate asks if he truly wants to build a new district by the castle walls. The government will allow it, but only under certain conditions. Suddenly, a strange, low sound catches the minister's attention and makes him pause. He looks at the sovereign, who wears a terrifying expression. The monarch says they're mistaken. He isn't asking for permission to build at all. He's just letting them know that he's going to do it. That irritates the man with the mustache, who introduces himself as the party leader. Hongyo complains about his lack of respect, saying that as the youngest person here, he should address them all as sir. But the archer ignores him completely. He says not everyone gets to speak in this meeting and tells the man to ask for permission next time. The leader is furious at such audacity, but the chancellor himself orders him to stand down immediately. Hongyo tries to argue, but Minyu barks at him to shut up. The man finally yields to his superior. Minyu apologizes and asks him to continue. The sovereign says what he has to say is very simple. He declares that if they keep making these absurd demands, his mercenaries will leave the kingdom for good. The room erupts into chatter. The lords and ministers refuse to be treated like they are nothing at all. And that's where we leave it. Our hero stands up. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens next. Stick with me, we're dropping right into a massive royal showdown. Alaric turns to leave, ignoring Lord Hong's shouts, until someone points out the audience. That stops Alaric in his tracks. King Minyu claims the people are observing their leader's struggle for the kingdom's safety and future progress. The king literally begs for help. He pleads for him to do it for the sake of the people, but Alaric refuses to be a pawn in some royal PR stunt. He asks if the king knows the phrase hellish kingdom, mentioning a new one that's trending: abandon the kingdom. The masked lord asks how that feels to hear, and if the king truly believes he's doing a good job. Lord Young is furious at the disrespect, but Alaric reveals the truth. Only 30% of the eternal world has appeared, meaning deadlier monsters are coming. That terrifying revelation leaves the king absolutely shaken. Alaric says now is the time to power up low-level knights as fast as they possibly can. Instead, the king is just raising taxes and taking bribes to hand out prime hunting grounds to wealthy nobles. Now pay attention, he's about to drop a truth bomb. He asks if this is acceptable, and his words cut deep. Minyu says he understands and will talk to his ministers, but Alaric has one condition: dissolve the night management department right now. Minyu is stunned, struggling to understand the demand. Alaric says he is helping the people of the realm, just like the king asked, but only for the common folk. Meanwhile, in the port city of 𝒂𝒂𝒈, a noblewoman is alone in her office reading headlines about the masked mercenaries taking a break. The reports say every member vanished after they successfully conquered the Castle of Chaos. She wonders if they actually found the legendary chest. Meanwhile, on the dark and foggy slopes of Mount Jury, a lone traveler creeps through the forest. The man is gasping for air, completely drained as he tries to see through the oppressive gloom. The fog is so thick, he regrets even leaving his house that morning. There's no way to find rare herbs if he can't see anything. But then, the air shifts and the fog just vanishes into thin air. Something catches his eye, and he can't believe what he's looking at. He can't even process what's standing in front of him. Meanwhile, the town crier's report on the secret palace meeting with the masked lord. King Minyu was there, but Alaric just thinks the kingdom's efforts are a total waste of time. Suddenly, his communication stone starts glowing with a call from Butcher. The monarch asks for an update on the castle. Butcher reports they took down a rank 61 boss and thinks they can win. Butcher believes that if they raid the castle together, they can actually clear the whole thing. Alaric warns him to be careful since the demon lords only get tougher. Then, he suddenly gets another urgent call. He's shocked when he sees the name on the screen. This definitely isn't a normal caller. He wonders what 𝒏𝒍𝒚 wants. Back at his own castle, he finds his team gathered outside the laboratory. Iron Hand Wu mentions he heard about the secret meeting with the king. The monarch confirms it, but the blacksmith grumbles that he's always doing everything by himself. He heard about the deal for the management department, but Alaric tells him not to sweat it. He explains they just have to defend territories chosen by the rulers every few months. You and I both know something's up. Let's see what they're really hiding. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 says they need to leave, catching Alaric off guard. The hooded hero looks around, waiting for the rest of his team to say something. Finally, Chan admits they can't keep up with him, because their levels are too low to use the elite night gear. Right now, Andre is level 41, Michael is 58, Anna is 63, and Dina is only 35. Alaric gets it. 𝒏𝒍𝒚 asks for a succubus to help them farm more experience, leaving the monarch totally confused. The hooded knight explains that the tattoo artist said succubi are actually experts at kiting enemies. Alaric laughs, saying she's the only one who'd think of that. He tells them to pack their potions and stay safe. Over at the Night Management Ministry, an intern reports a brand new dungeon sighting from early this morning. The official in glasses asks for the location and is shocked to hear it's on Mount Jury. He rushes to confirm the news, adjusting his glasses to make sure he isn't hallucinating. He recognizes the steel peaks in the photograph. Their frantic talk starts drawing a crowd. What do you and I make of this? A Year 5 dungeon appearing now. It's a legendary nightmare from the past. All right, you and I are diving into the source of the most legendary weapons and armor in the Eternal Realm. That sends his partner into a total panic. With a smirk, the man warns that the entire kingdom is about to start talking. Meanwhile, at the Royal Harbor, travelers pour off every ship. Sir Manuel is among the first to step ashore. Michael is right behind him, and Richard appears too, looking like he wants to kill someone. Demands are flooding in from empires all over the world, begging for access to the Iron Peaks to avoid a massive diplomatic disaster. The advisor asks for orders. The High Chancellor is visibly shaken. Lord Alaric, however, sits calmly in his study. The king sits with his arms crossed, his face etched with worry over the crisis. Desperate, he orders his men to summon the masked monarch. Lord Alaric sits alone, carefully reading the scrolls in his hand. He scans the document. It is an official decree from the king, granting him full control over the Iron Peaks. The Iron Peaks are famous for two reasons. First, the terrain demands a massive, coordinated raid from multiple guilds. 50 elite knights, split into 5 squads, must march into the mountains together. The second reason is the guardians, golem knights called the Black, Red, and White Knights. Their metal bodies are far tougher than steel. Adamantium, radium, and mithril. Nearly every legendary blade in this world was forged from the remains of these metal golems. Alaric asks if the groups are ready. The guild masters are all gathered within the castle's great hall. Manuel asks if he looks like an amateur. Richard tells Alaric to relax because his men can hold their own. Only Sir Michael stays completely silent. Now watch this, Alaric laughs at their arrogance. He warns them that the Iron Peaks will wipe out their entire army if they aren't careful. This is not like anything they have faced before. Michael tells him to stop the preaching. Annoyed, he asks if Alaric is just trying to hoard all the treasures of the Iron Peaks for himself. Alaric remains stone-faced despite the insult. The masked man says it is quite funny for Michael to even ask that. He points out that the Kingdom of Albion seized the Mana stone mines for themselves. Why should he not do the same? Alaric says the man clearly does not understand. Exerting total dominance, he declares that no Albion knight is permitted inside the Iron Peaks. Michael can barely believe what he is hearing. The masked monarch stands his ground, ordering the blonde knight to leave the Valorian borders immediately. No second chances. Michael finally realizes the truth. Lord Alaric is not playing games. He is dead serious about this ban. The danger finally sinks in, but his pride is too great. He stands up and storms out, slamming the door shut. And you and I should pay attention here. Alaric warns the remaining leaders to choose their next words very carefully. The monarch tells them to value their lives above their greed, before the meeting continues in a heavy silence. Later, Alaric reaches the fog-shrouded forest near the dungeon. You can only see his dark silhouette through the mist. He strides forward, his vision piercing the gloom. Finally, he finds the hidden path he was searching for. The entrance is ahead, but he cannot go in alone. A voice calls out, confirming that the troops are ready. Alaric turns to the crowd. Sir Richard nods, saying it is finally time to move. The monarch warns him not to even think about stealing the weapons he provided. The knight just scoffs at the suggestion. Alaric gives one final warning against greed. The plan is to only hit the Black Knight zone, then they are finally ready. The mist is suffocating. The knights grip their blades as they advance, most of them clearly terrified of the shadows. The leaders take the point position. What lies ahead is nightmare fuel. They have finally arrived at the Iron Peaks. Something moves in the dark. Alaric yells for everyone to prepare because the Black Knight has arrived. The golem's eyes glow with a fierce light. Its attack is instant, scattering the knights like they were mere toys. Alaric does not just stand there. He grips his massive war hammer, Brocky, and slams it against the shield. The Black Knight is unmoved and strikes back. Alaric roars for his men to focus and crush the metal beast. He launches another strike, clearly annoying the monster. The golem raises its twin-pronged spear and swings it at the masked man. Alaric yells for everyone to retreat while dodging the blow. The weapon's tip buries into the earth, triggering a series of violent explosions across the battlefield. Several warriors are caught in the magical blasts, which surge toward Alaric, but he glides through the chaos using his dimensional steps. He jumps, aiming his hammer at the beast. So what do you and I take from this? One heavy blow, and the golem's armor is completely shattered. Wild. Stick with me as Lord Barrett readies his hammer, crushing that beast with another devastating strike. Stick with me. The Black Knight is sent flying as Lord Thorn leaps up, hammer raised for another crushing blow. All right, you and I are about to watch Alistair skip his ultimate moves and just use his hammer to smash the Black Knight into pieces, crushing the first golem instantly. The other knights watch in awe. while Sir Richard is left speechless. Silence falls as everyone stares at the masked lord, until something suddenly catches Alistair's eye. Now pay attention. Alistair just banked 1,200 experience points, and trust me, he is just getting warmed up as a new sound rings out. 2 more golems emerge from the shadows. For him, this is where the real fun finally begins. And that's how Alistair claims this territory as his personal hunting ground. You and I just witnessed a legend in the making. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Farewell then.